Alrighty, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in your Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you guys spending some time with us again. Um, we're thankful and grateful, appreciative as always, to the only wise, Alachem, be all glory, majesty, dominion, power, both now and forever. Aman. We give all honor and praise to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. Um, to Marshawn, Malcolm, Betty, Isabella, and Solomon, Daddy loves you very much. Matter of fact, happy born day to Isabella. Prayerfully you've received your gifts. Shalom to everybody. The ministerial staff, those who are part of SOC, those part of the diaspora, those who are not part of the diaspora, those who are grafted in, those that agree with what we're saying, disagree with it, etc. We're thankful and grateful to have you. Prayerfully, we'll have better results concerning our signal on this rising. Kind of had an iffy last couple of days with this Wi-Fi, so prayerfully things will be back on track. We will find out as we continue to move forward. But thank you guys for coming on. And we appreciate you. We're continuing our FAQ series, frequently asked questions series. And today, moderators, we need you to be ready. Be ready. Be ready. So we'll give the topic in a second, but moderators, be ready, because this is a touchy subject, and we already know people get touchy on certain subject matters, and this one is going to be pretty abrasive. We'll try to do this in a manner that it's not taken as such, but you can only do what you can do, right? But thank you, everybody, for being on. We appreciate you. Sister Dawn, my wife, the Honorable Maya, Bloom and Flourish is on. Thanks for being on, babe. We have Minister Select Morel, Sister Sharice, Minister Tamara, Minister Sonia, Big Brother Thomas, everybody, Lottie Dottie, and everybody. We appreciate your presence with us today. And the topic for today, the topic for today is, what is a male and female? We had to go over what is a baby not too long ago, but today we had to go over what is a male and female. What is that? It seems to be a big discussion nowadays, and we want to come from our cultural perspective once again, right? What is a male and female? What is an adult male and female? What is a baby male and female? What is we already talked about what is a baby. So what is a male baby? What is a female baby? Right? Because when we talk about babies, we don't talk about once they are 2 years old or once they're born or et cetera. A baby is something that in our culture, before you were conceived in the womb, the Most High, He had a relationship with you. He was intimate. He knew you. How you doing, Lionheart? So that's what we want to come from today. And then we want to talk about what is a male, what is a female, what is the purpose of a male and a female, what's the purpose of a husband and a wife, what is the purpose of a father and a mother, why is it important that we keep these, right? Keep this up as far as what a mother and father, what a husband, what a wife is. Because if we don't upkeep this, right, if we don't make sure that we recognize what this is, are we starting to see some issues in society that could come? Have we seen in other societies that have there been issues? So moderators, once again, we need you. We need you. We need you. Hello. How you doing, Miss Mac? We need you. We need you. We need you. We need you to be on point today. We appreciate you guys. We want you to be locked in if you can, because we know that as people come on, this is a topic that people try to cancel you over. They won't want to listen about it. And one of the things that's if anything should be sickening to us is the fact that we as a society. How you doing, Big Brother Clem? We as a society. Thanks, babe. We as a society should if nothing else, be willing to have conversation. But we can't have conversation about what a male and a female is, right? If you can't have conversation about what a male and a female is, how are you guys out here trying to create legislation? Right? Yeah, it's a very important topic, right? And so think about that. Like, you're trying to create legislation, but you can't agree on XY or XX. You're trying to teach babies, but we're arguing over what creation is. Or even if you want to talk evolution, we can come from that point of view too. I don't mind. It's not my cultural perspective per se, but If that's what we need to do today, then let's go ahead and do so. But we are in a situation where we are trying so hard, right? We are trying so hard to do so many different things, but the family dynamic is messed up. How do you make sure that you take your community back, or even create your community, or even be able to apply your community to different things, and you can't recognize the basics of male, female, child, baby, etc., right? We can't apply husband, wife. How you doing, Sister Beverly? How you doing, Bounty? So, and thanks for the share, Minister Tamara. So today we're going to focus on what is a male and a female. What is a male and a female? Now, we can come from a scientific place. We have to make sure, since we're going to have people that are going to talk about this, let's go ahead and get the gender thing out the way, right? Let's go ahead and get the gender thing out the way. Gender, it's the same word basically as genre. All right, genre is a style. Like there are styles of music, there are genders. There are genders of music. There are genres of music. There are genres when it comes to how people in different cultures treat male and female. So I'm not here. So when I say what is a male and female, before we get into the style of how we as a culture, through our lens, through our beliefs, right, through our emotions, through our feelings, through our mood, through our energy and effort, through our habits, right, ultimately bringing the culture down traditionally to another generation. Before we get into what we do, let's talk about the difference between male and female, which is we would call sex, because sex is marriage, marriage is sex. That's where that comes from, right? So sex, which is male and female, have to come together in order for it to be sex or marriage. That's I'm not telling you don't be offended, whoever's on listening. I'm telling you where these words come from, right? We use these words, but we don't realize where they come from. We don't study, we don't have proper etymology. We just go, hey, somebody's been saying something for the last 10, 15, 20 years, so we'll just act like nothing else before it actually applies, right? But we got to talk about the difference between sex and gender. We got to be basic. A lot of people that even would, come against what we're saying, that's the first place that they would go. So, hey, I will oblige. If we're going to talk about the difference between sex, male and female, and gender, well, once again, sex is simply male and female. It is. I know somebody will try to add a third one in there or whatever. Look, even if you got both parts on the outside shell, it's on the inside that counts, if you get my drift, right? I don't want to use, because I only know a term that's supposedly supposed to be a bad term that you're not supposed to use. So I won't use that term. Starts with an H, but I won't use that term. But long story short, if you have both parts, they don't judge you if you're male or female by what's on the outside. They judge you by what's on the inside physically, right? So even if you got two parts, if you got both parts on the outside in the in your garden type area region, well, if if you got a prostate or something, right, then you're a male, right? If you have a womb, you'd be a female. You're not going to see both of those in there, even regardless of what's on the outside. It's like melanin. If you want to gauge somebody's melanin count, we don't say, oh, that person's darker, that person's lighter, so it guarantees that they have more melanin. You measure the melanin for the inside out. Right now, it makes sense that 99% of the time that if you got melanin, the melanin is still, how you look outside will kind of be an indication as far as who has more melanin or what type of melanin you have, right? But now, but once again, you have male or you have female, even intersex, right? Like, or they're called intersex. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So when somebody says intersex, they're talking about something on the outside. You cannot, if you have both parts, if you call it intersex, then basically you still are either going to have sperm that comes out, right? Or you're going to have eggs that come out. You're not going to have both. You're not going to have prostate and ovaries, right? You're going to have one or the other. So even if you're somebody who what they call intersex now, or whatever, you have to comprehend that they measure it from the inside. So you still are either a male or a female, right? So you still are somebody who would, sexually, marriage-wise, you would fall into a category eventually of a husband or wife, whether you like it or not. That's according to Eurocentric science. That's not even African science telling you this, blah blah. Even though we would agree, it's not Israelite. It's not native, it's not indigenous, it's not whatever. I'm mixed with a lot of different things that I can claim or whatever, but it's not any of those. I'm going by what your science teaches, right? If you are somebody who's into Western medicine, your science, your Western medicine, your doctors will tell you. right? The same thing that we say you should not judge a book by its cover. You should not go, oh, somebody's got both parts, therefore they must be both, right? The way that your anatomy works on the inside will tell you who you are, even on the outside. You said eggs don't come out. Okay, well, that's a great point if you're trying to say, okay, you got to be wrong, right? So, what I mean by eggs come out is what? Eggs, what I mean by eggs come out is the fact that eggs, they travel out. If nothing happens to them, then they come out in blood, right? So either you'll have eggs that are coming out, or if the egg it becomes fertile, what'll happen? That egg comes out with the form of a baby, correct? Okay, so either you have sperm in you that will eventually come out, right? Or you have eggs in you that will eventually come out. If you don't like the fact that I said eggs come out, prayerfully you get the context. If not, cool. We don't have to agree on every single word that I use. It's not my duty or responsibility, in all honesty, to get you to agree with everything. And that's why I'm saying we're coming from a cultural perspective. All right. So when we're talking about these things, right? We are specifically speaking on, so that's male and female, right? That's what male and female is, according to even Western medicine. That's what male and female is. That's what sex is. Even intersex really is not intersex, because scientifically you can't do that, right? So now what we're doing, well, in our culture, what came first was a whole human being. But somebody else looking for evolution, usually you're talking about the fifth version of evolution. Um, you know, you'd have to ask them, because basically you have to have a first for that. And was it a male? Was it a female? Was it something that was sleeping around with other species? You know, that's why we have to have all these different missing links and things. And we can talk about that later. But you know, that's that's not really something that's a problem for me, because I don't need to say who came first, because really in creation, both came first together. And then specifically, as far as if you want to go to Adam, Adam was a whole person, went around, did this, then female taken out of him, both coming together at that point to be able to continue stuff with male and females that were already here together, right? Generation, Genesis chapter 1 talks about a generation and how things work with male and female and the human species. And then talks about Genesis chapter 2, a specific male and female and the garden, and how eventually Seth and then others will begin to go ahead and mix and match until the time of the flood. So you're talking about something completely culturally different as far as I would look at it in the scientific lens. Um, so, you know, the science that we would use would be executed from a different cultural perspective. But, you know, I'm not really, that's not a concern for me as a person. You know, it's not a concern for me as a person to be able to figure out which came first, the sperm or the egg, because both were inside each other. Whether you believe in the Genesis 1 people or you believe in Genesis 2 people, both were there. So for me, that's not a problem. That being said, though, like going back into it, we have to get into a place where, um, and I'm sorry, hello, let's say hello to Sister Shantae. I'm not sure, but we have, that being said, we must get to a place where we understand sex. That's what sex is. Now we can talk about gender. Gender is the style, right? Gender is the style. That's it. Sex is the male and female. Gender is the style. It's a genre. It's the same word. People don't know that. It's the same word. It's the same word usage. It's just simply a couple different people who speak Latin using it slightly different. It's the same word, right? A genre is a gender. Thanks for being part of the community, Brian. Thanks for being part of the community. Is it Starry Eye, Nubia, right? So a genre is a gender. So if you've got a genre of jazz, you've got a gender of jazz. If you got a genre of rap, you've got a gender of rap. If you have a genre of classical music, you have a gender of classical music. That's proper etymology, according to what? Their culture. I'm not even talking about our culture. We're using the words that they're telling us we should be using for this conversation. We have to, let's stay committed. Let's stay within the parameters of what they say these words mean, right? So, for example, we always talk about how the last thing that you want to be as a male or a female, right, in our culture, is somebody who's in a platonic relationship. That's the last thing that we want to be in our culture. Now, why would we say that's the last thing that we want to partake in our culture? Why would that be something that's the very last thing that we want to participate in our culture in? Well, because the gender or genre, right? The gender or the genre of our culture Hey man, how you doing, Minister Sonia? If I didn't say so, I think I said hello, but if not, and how you doing? Was it Frankie and Cynthia? Right. So the last thing you want to be in our culture is in a platonic relationship. Why? Because in Greek, in the Greek culture, Plato believed that the worst relationship you could have is what? To be in a marriage between a male and a female, or be a husband and a wife. He believed it was the worst relationship you could have, right? Now, scientifically, it makes no sense, because if that's the worst relationship you can have, then it means, we're not talking about a time where you guys are trying to flip the script and, freeze sperm and freeze eggs, or, do the different things or whatever, or, make sure that you can go ahead and inseminate somebody, or test tube babies, or whatever, right? Like, you're back then, if male and female didn't get together, there would be no human beings, correct? Uh-oh. Are we losing people on YouTube and on the podcast? This Wi-Fi thing, man. This Wi-Fi thing. I'm gonna have to. I have to get a whole nother thing. Might have to buy another Wi-Fi. It's this thing getting out of control. So sorry. I hope we didn't just lose everybody on YouTube. We might have. It looks like it went down to 0. Now it's back to 1. I don't know if you guys can hear me on YouTube, or if you can hear me on the podcast or something. Let me know. Because it looks like we're losing you guys. So, or if you guys come over to TikTok or whatever, let me know if you're coming over, because the podcast or YouTube stopped working. Because it tells me I have a signal, but it doesn't look like it's operating with the signal. I apologize. Yeah, it says I have a signal, so I don't know. Hopefully, you can hear. Okay, cool. All right, I'm getting worried after yesterday. So yeah, so Plato believed that the worst relationship was between a husband and a wife. Getting back into that, right? So Plato said that the best relationship was between a man in his 40s and a little boy, a preteen, maybe an early teen, but that was about the most he could go. That's a genre. That's a genre. That's a gender concerning how they treated their males. And then, of course, if you want to look at how they did their females were only supposed to be vessels for children to be born. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody fell suit for that, so fell in line with that, but that's what a platonic relationship is. It's based off of a culture. There's a style that comes there. So if you're going to be in a platonic relationship, comprehend that's a true platonic relationship. Anything else out here, that's not platonic, right? You said he thought babies would be everybody's and raised collectively, right? So you have a cult, stuff like that, sure. But also you got to recognize, like, what when you have these things that happen, right? The Roman Catholic Church. Why is it that you have priests that do what they do, where they're into a lot of Greco-Roman type stuff too? Also, too, they themselves, their style when it comes to their priests is that supposedly their priests, their cardinals, their popes, etc., aren't supposed to be married. Problem with that is that that's not how your body is designed, is it? Yeah, we could talk about what they do on Saturnalia, all those things, right? Okay, you see in here clearly. Okay, it's just messing with the numbers then. So there must be more people on than what I can see. All right, thank you for letting me know. So yeah, so we're dealing with those things, right? You said he was talking about a perfect society. What, with platonic relationships? Where you mess with little boys? I think we got an issue with that. If that's a perfect society. See, but that's their gender, that's their style, right? That's their gender. That's the style of those particular people. So if you want to partake in that, then that's a gender that a culture, that a tribe would have. Interestingly enough, they wouldn't call that a cult, because you don't call Eurocentric stuff. Even though, let's not make this white or black, by the way, you must comprehend that Europe just means anything that belonged to Rome. You must understand that the Romans took their lead from Kemetic people, from Etruscans, and from Greek people. And you must comprehend that Greek people ain't, at least at that time, they're not exactly what now by the social construct you would call white. Not just because they didn't believe that people that were the same color had to be bound together. I'm talking about that they actually would have been looking more like us. Like, we actually, just because they put 300 in the movie, and the same guy that they put as an Egyptian god in one movie, they made King Leonidas and another one, right? Don't get it twisted. Like King Leonidas probably would have looked closer to what I look like. I don't know if his hair would have looked the same, right? But he probably would have looked in color, according to history. Probably would have looked more like me than he would have looked like whatever that dude's name is, right? But it's a style. It's a style. Oh, punctuation's fine, right? So it's a style. You said it was very common in Greece, Canaanites. Greece is the Middle East. I mean, if you want to get into Middle East, even that stuff, we're putting different cultures and different things. Remember that the Middle East there was no such thing as the Middle East until England started saying there was a Middle East, right? So even in that, we're talking about a different mindset here. We're talking about a different time. And we're talking about ultimately male and female, which was the point of it. What is male and female? According to us, it's through a cultural perspective, right? How you doing, Sister Helen? How you doing, Anthony? Said Yashua also looks like us. Oh yeah, most definitely. I'm Yehuda or Yechada, really, or Yehabada, even you could say, or Judah, right? Um, one of many different things I'm mixed with, but yeah, I take pride in that. We must, right? That being said, though, yeah. So you're talking about a different cultural perspective. You're talking about a different gender. I'm sorry, Alistair Crowley is considered extremely evil. Barbara Bush's father. Okay, amen. Yeah. Oh, you were talking to somebody else. Okay. Um, so yeah, so we have a situation going on. We have an issue going on where we're upholding cultures, and somebody's getting us to have arguments about gender more than. Thank you, Brother Clem. I'm sorry, I saw you earlier say you could hear. So we're having people who are talking more about gender than they're talking about male and female. And in our culture, male and female is to be treated different than other cultures. That's okay. Every culture is slightly different here or there with how they treat their male and female. There are certain things that should be across the board, but every culture is allowed to have their own culture, and therefore they're allowed to what? They're allowed to say, and thank you, Trevon, how you doing? And they're allowed to say, this is how we treat our people here. Every culture is allowed to do that. There's not one culture that's not allowed to do that. Come on. There's not one. No, not one. No, not one. Right? And so, look, if you're in certain places and they say, male and female can be up for interpretation, that's their culture. Now, one thing that I'm telling you to be careful about with that is that if you study when all of these empires, these great empires that you guys like and everything, when they start to go down, especially, and I'm not trying to make this a black white thing. Once again, the word Europe or Europe, Europa, it actually means anything that belonged to Rome. So technically, Northern African at one point was Europa, right? And they call themselves Europa. Remember, Europa wasn't a continent. There was no such thing as Europa or European or Europe or a European outside of being somebody who belonged to Rome. Then eventually, um, people who wanted to be like Rome started trying to make this thing called Eurasia, where you got the European side and we're better than the Asian side, right? And then from there, it went to let's make ourselves a continent, even though a continent by definition is supposed to be a large landmass completely surrounded by water, which means that Europe is a peninsula, Asia is a peninsula, Africa is a peninsula. It means that North America is a peninsula and South America is a peninsula. And technically, all of us are one because we're all connected together, still underwater, because none of these continents are just floating around, right? Hitting each other. They're all still in the ground. So this whole thing of Pangea or after Palag, which is our belief system when the splitting of the continents happened, is due to the fact that it happened on the top, on the surface level. Which is why if you go to Israel today, for example, they have a sign there when you're looking over, right? Because when you're looking over in the direction of Kemet, right? Remember, Israel is like a 18, 20-minute plane trip, right? Over to Kemet and vice versa. So, and some of you might not even know that. That's how close they are. So when you're looking in that direction, there will be a sign in Israel, and that sign will say, still part of Africa, even though you have a whole Zionist movement that would tell you otherwise. But that sign would say, still there today, would tell you, oh yeah, you're still in Africa, right? So this whole Middle East thing and everything. Somebody had to give that to us later on when they were kidnapping us, and they wanted the kidnappee to have Stockholm syndrome and to become one in mind with the kidnapper, to the point to where the kidnapper is no longer the kidnapper. Matter of fact, the kidnapper doesn't matter because the kidnapper died off. And even though the kidnappers people are still being able to function, hey, why are you blaming them? Because they didn't have anything to do with it. All they do is just, live off of it. Right. And so the same value system, you got to recognize this value system, or the same people who had this value system are the same people that are trying to tell you that their gender is more important than your gender. If we want to get into a gender argument, which I don't think we should necessarily argue about it, but if you get what I'm saying, a gender conversation, the conversation about gender should go more so along the lines of what is your style versus what is my style. Because gender, once again, is not sex. Sex is male and female because sex is marriage, marriage is sex, right? But gender is the style of what a male and a female are supposed to do according to their own culture. So now we should try to see. So just like we said, what is a baby? And we went through that through a cultural prism. Now we should have a conversation of what is a male and a female based off of our cultural perspective. See, because in somebody else's culture, all women are women means that a man can say that he's a woman or feels like he's a woman, or even can feel like a woman on certain days. And on those days he feels like it, he gets to have the same right to somebody who has ovaries. He gets to have the same right to somebody who has babies. He gets to have the same right. See, look, it's always interesting to me how people will say a man shouldn't tell a woman what to do with their bodies, but you let a whole bunch of men tell you how their bodies are just as woman-like as yours. The cognitive dissonance can be astounding. I'm not saying that we should disrespect trans women, because somebody will be on here and saying I said that. So I'm not saying that we should disrespect trans women. Matter of fact, I believe that trans women are still human beings, correct? And if you don't believe that, you're just going to have to be frustrated with me, right? But at the same time though, while respecting their humanity, should we not say that you are not the same as a wombed man? Is that not why you have to put trans before? See, and what they're trying to do to be clever is now drop the trans. Hey, that's just a woman. No, no, it's not. Hey, Shalom, how you doing, Prince? It's not. Not because we disrespect your humanity. It is not because you are not the same. Why not be okay with being who you are? See, because now if all women are women, then why not, is it possible that they might, I don't know, have two women in a MMA cage or a boxing ring? I mean, is it possible that might happen? I don't know. And we might see a male who simply just does some stuff as far as taking some type of hormone and things like that, and gets in the ring, and as long as they're low enough in a certain count, they can go in there and beat the brakes off of a woman. Has that happened yet? And does it really matter? I mean, if all women are women, then we should be okay with men or former men, I guess. Or you saying, hey, it's not even a man, so hey, you should be okay with this woman beating the brakes off of a woman. But when you see it, if you've ever seen it, I'm sorry, my wife said, yeah, laws are affected by gender roles, and so being gender fluid can be detrimental to law, right? But hear what I'm saying. When you see these things, right? I don't know if some of you've ever seen it. It's hard to watch. I watched it because, I've only watched it a few times, but I'll be honest, I watched it because I was like, hey, I need to figure out how to make this stuff happen. I need to be able to make this stuff happen and things of that nature, right? I need to be able to figure out what's going on. Like when these people are fighting each other, like, what does this look like? They're telling me that all women are women, and this trans woman who's just supposed to be a woman is fighting a woman. And what I saw looked like straight abuse. If I had seen that in the street, I might have killed this woman, because that woman ain't a woman. You know what I'm saying? But somebody said, no, all of them are women. We counted their levels, their testosterone levels, this and that or whatever. They're fine. Yeah, we've seen a version of that with swimming. right? Breaking all types of records, girls who are frustrated and sad, only 12 spots for women to be able to go to the next, level to be able to compete. And the 12th girl crying because one of the people swimming is biologically male. See, this is one thing that they won't tell you is that even if you're a trans woman, you are still biologically a male. Even if you are a trans man, you are still biologically a woman. See, and we don't want to be honest about it, but in somebody else's culture, see, you live in this land of the free, home of the brave that says that you're already a fake person anyways. That birth certificate make you a fake person. That social security number makes you a fake person. So hey, you might as well fake being whatever you want. See, in America, the greatness of America is tied into the fact that you can lie about whatever you want. Right? Yeah, who does y'all say you are is important. But in America, you can lie about whatever you want. In Western society, you can lie. I heard a guy, I don't remember his name. He's an actor, and I think he also was on a news program or something over in England. And he was talking about, man, you know what? I hate, like, I don't believe in these people. I don't, and who would want to serve, the God of the Bible? And who would want to serve the God of Muslims? And who would want to serve a God, period, and all this? He said, but the Greek gods, now let's have a conversation. Why? Because he knows that Greek gods are gods that they continue to write out and change over and over and over again. And his Big Bang theory is based off of Gaia, and his space and everything right about the earth, the creation of the earth is based upon Gaia and the firmament. And his ideas on what the stars do and what they're made of, and how the Milky Way was something that was drawn years before there was even a telescope. And we don't even know what the Milky Way looks like because you can't even go far enough out to see what the Milky Way looks like. Somebody's giving you a theory on what it is based off of paintings coming from somebody's culture, right? Everything's about being fake. And so if you can be faking everything else, you can fake it, right? And the belief is even what you can fake it till you make it, instead of like actually having successful habits that you're disciplined and diligent with every single day, right? You said it's like biological women are being phased out, preparing everyone for the future of conception. Hmm. I'm sorry, you said, so what you're saying is men are better athletes than women? What I'm saying is that no, actually, there are women that can do some things better than men. But what I'm saying is, if I take the average man, like for example, I do kung fu, and I'm not great at kung fu, not even a black belt, right? Like I do well enough that if I got to fight somebody, I could take you out, right? I'm 6'5.5" as well, so that helps. But let's take it away from being male or female, Lisa, right? Let me put it like this, because we can get into all this stuff, and if we're careful, we'll gaslight, we'll make a straw man out of something that's not even there, right? I'm talking about our cultural perspective too. So that means, if you want to make it something else, your culture might say that I'm doing that. But if you want to look at it through the lens of my culturism, and it would just be what I would call fair. Maybe you wouldn't, but I would call fair, right? What I would say is that if so, I'm 6'5.5", no less at any time. Usually I'm working around no less than 270, sometimes up to like 290 something. If I were to fight a male and he was 5'6", 150 pounds, and we were to fight, he could be better trained in boxing or kung fu or kickboxing, tai chi, etc. He could be better trained in any of those things, and he could be an MMA champion. Uh-oh, we lost TikTok for a second. I don't know what happened. Okay, there we go. Got TikTok back. So what I'm saying is that if I was, so I'm 6'5.5". Let's say I'm about 285, and I fought a guy 5'6", 150 pounds. He could be an MMA champion, and he might beat me in points, but he couldn't really beat me up. It's not even male or female. It's that we're designed different. Like people have had this conversation. Who would win in a fight, Bruce Lee or Mike Tyson? Now, Mike Tyson would win. People say, well, Bruce Lee is one of the greatest kung fu masters, this and that. Bruce Lee's really small. Mike Tyson is really big. Bruce Lee might kick Mike Tyson, but it's not going to affect Mike Tyson the same way that it did. Just because we see in the movie something happens, just because we seeing in certain things something happens. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody like Ronda Rousey couldn't take me, and if she got me in the right position, possibly flip me over, right? but I'd have to really be out of position. But she could because she got the training. But if Ronda Rousey and got in a fight, like she knows some things to be able to make sure that she could possibly like, cause some damage to me, of course. Like she'd mess me up. Like I wouldn't come out clean. But at the end of the day, Ronda Rousey ain't taking me out. I'm not saying because I think I'm all that. I'm saying because there's differences. That's why you have weight classes, right? If I were to fight somebody, if I were to fight a featherweight, featherweights can fight what at 100. Well, I don't even know the different things, but whatever. If I were to fight a male, he was 125 pounds or 135 pounds coming against me, right? I'm naturally around that weight. Like, I can carry that weight and not look, not be fat per se, right? I'm a little overweight now, but like I can carry that weight when I'm muscled and toned up and everything and still not be considered to be fat, right? And I can move at that weight if necessary. I can run at that weight. So it's the male and female part is not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about because of like who I am and how I'm designed and what I naturally can do. Yeah, anybody at a certain weight or size or whatever is at a disadvantage. So yeah, now, but what I would say, so yeah, depending on what we're doing. So now let's say there's a fight, which I don't believe in fighting a woman. The only time I think you should even consider putting your hands on a woman is if your life is on the line. That's it, right? And even with that, try your best to still make sure that you treat her with as much respect as possible, right? A whole escalation of force type mentality. But if I'm now dealing with a woman that's 125 pounds, right? And let's say this woman's 125 pounds and she's actually overweight and she's really, because that's what happens when you fight too, you would cut the weight. Heavyweights don't cut weight. So heavyweights start at 220 something. I'm way over 220 something, right? So like I don't cut weight. But if you're lower, you cut the weight because you're always actually carrying a little more than what you're supposed to carry, right? Like I would cut some weight, but I wouldn't cut weight trying to be close to 225. I would cut weight and maybe be around 270 and be comfortable, right, with what I need to do and have the stamina. Somebody at one, so let's say you're a woman at 125, right? You're 5'2", and you actually need to cut weight to be in shape. So really, what you're going to do is you're going to cut weight and try and be around what 100 and 110 pounds. And somebody says we're supposed to get in the ring and fight each other. Especially now, let's go back to what you're talking about in sports. It's supposed to be fair competition. So it's not even you know more than me. We're supposed to be on the same level. We're supposed to both be professional boxers, both be professional MMA or masters or whatever. We get in that ring together. Who do you think is going to win? Even if you are kicking and doing all these things or whatever, right? And you're hitting my leg and doing all these things and all these different things like that, because of the size difference, we're going to automatically have an issue. It's not because I'm better than you, right? Because the things that I might be better in might be things to help me to protect you. So yeah, if I should be bigger, faster, stronger in certain areas. And by the way, like there are mixed martial artist women who have dated mixed martial artist men, and their boyfriends have gotten the brakes beat off of them in manners that were kind of like it was like really, really bad. And when they watch their men get beat up because they themselves are women that can beat people up, I don't think this is right, but I'm just going to tell you even the mindset of some women who do this. They have come out in interviews and said, yeah, like I had to break up with him. And the guy be like, who's interviewing, like, why you break up with him? Well, I mean, the fact that when he didn't just get like beat up or whatever, but he put his hands up like he was like giving up, like no mercy, or please have mercy, please have mercy. And I can't take that from somebody, because if you're gonna go out, get knocked out. If you get knocked loopy, you get knocked loopy. If you look silly when you fall, look silly when you fall. But what? Have your hands up, right? So she's saying like, hey, I do this for a living. And the fact that I saw you couldn't protect me, I don't care that you lost. The fact that it seemed like you wouldn't put your all into that with yourself, what would you do for me? It's a whole different mindset. We're talking about a cultural thing. So I don't want to get caught up. I know I spent a lot of time on that, but I don't want to get caught up in just, hey, and how you doing, Brother Cole? Sorry if I didn't say so already. I don't want to get caught up in, and how you doing, Krypton, as well. I don't want to get caught up in, oh, men are better than women. That's not what I'm saying at all. Once again, what is a male? What is a female? Right? What is a husband? What is a wife? Husbands and wives are not the same. Right? Two men are not the same. Two women are not the same. I don't believe in equality because equality is a myth. On my best day, I could never be you, and on your best day, you could never be me. The day that I learned that is the day that my wife and I's relationship skyrocketed. Because, hey, babe, you better at finances. Okay, you do this. Babe, you better at picking out hotels. You pick out the hotels. Hey, babe, you better at foraging and getting our food stuff together. You do that, right? Babe, you better at making sure that Solomon, certain things with Solomon are done, and you want to take on the whole thing, and you want to basically be the main teacher in his life. You do it. You just tell me what you want me to teach him, and then when it's time for him to learn certain things from me, he gonna be mine, right? But up until, hey, you do that, you do this, you take care, right? Because you're better at certain things. And she says to me, hey, you're better at being able to operate in this. You do that. You're better at being able to do this as far as this. Hey, you do that. Hey, car and stuff needs to be taken care of. You do that. Right? The second that we realize that there are certain things that we are better at and we're not equal is the second that we became greater. And I have no, I see, watch this, because of the way I am and the way my culture is, the way our tribe is, etc. Um, I never worry about, I never worry about making sure that my wife and I have the same rights. May I say that? I never worry about that. I never concern myself with that because my wife has the right to be her, and I have the right to be me, and I protect her right. Part of it physically, which is why I'm trying to even make sure I get back in shape slowly but surely to develop to make sure that I'm there all the way I need to be. But we're not talking about just because men and women shouldn't be fighting in the ring that the man is better at a sport per se. Like I would tell you that Serena Williams is a better tennis player than John McEnroe ever was. But Serena Williams would tell you that if she were to go against John McEnroe, even even though his prime was maybe what 30 years ago, something like that, but possibly maybe what 40 years ago, but she would be the first to tell you that if she were to go against John McEnroe probably 20, 25 years ago, that she would lose. She's admitted that men's tennis and women's tennis are completely different. Men are serving the ball sometimes at what 140 something at least, right? Matter of fact, let me see something. I'm just gonna look it up. What is the highest? What is the highest speed of a serve in tennis? Okay, so highest speed ever of a serve given in tennis by a man is 157.2 miles per hour. And right now, let me see what the highest speed in women's tennis is. It's 136.7 miles per hour, right? But right now, but the average basically, or so, and that's so that yeah, that's so I'm sorry, that's the highest. That's completely different sport. It's like in baseball, if somebody pitches if the fastest you can hit is 80 miles per hour, and then somebody comes and starts pitching at 100 miles per hour, it's a different sport. It's a different pitch altogether. It's a different game, so to speak, right? I'm not trying to say that somebody's better, but I would tell you that Serena Williams is actually a better tennis player than John McEnroe, even though if they went against each other, right, especially in their prime, John McEnroe would have won. So I'm not saying that, right? So you got to look at what's going on, right? And even the 136.7 miles per hour, that's somebody trying to hit the fastest they could and hoping that they get it in line. That's somebody just trying their hardest to hit it fast, but that's not how you play tennis. You don't try to hit it just your fastest just because. Like you try to do it every once in a while, but you can't even keep that up. You would mess yourself up, right? So that means that more likely, like you have averages probably around 120 or so. And for a lot of women, that might be considered to be high, but that's why they make the big bucks, right? That's why they're professionals, right? And only certain women can keep that up. So it's not saying that somebody's better than somebody. It's saying that we're not equal in that regard. We're not, but we shouldn't be. No two people are equal. Are there some women out there like in MMA? Is there a woman? What's her name? Cyborg skills in tennis. Sure, technical skills, and I think Serena Williams has more technical skill. She probably has more technical skills than Federer. A lot of women in the NBA. That was WNBA, right? And a lot of women in WNBA, not the bigs, too. But a lot of women in WNBA, like Diana Taurasi, Dawn Staley from back in the day, we can go through different people. Cheryl, go back further than her, Cheryl Miller. Some people consider her to be the greatest basketball player ever, not just the greatest female basketball player ever. She just didn't have a professional place to play, right? But you go back and look at them. Their skills are out of this world. Like their skills, dribbling skills, like they cross a brother up all day, every day. There's a lot of women out there on IG and TikTok and all this stuff or whatever. They got a lot of different skills, right? Take those same women, put them in front of NBA players. Even those NBA players that might not be as skilled, they can make up for it in other ways, right? So I'm not trying to, make it out to be there. Like there's issues with YouTube. I knew it was coming. Because they said it's a miracle. Thank you, y'all, for allowing it to be this long. Because it said on the Wi-Fi that it wasn't supposed to be working, but it's been working. So we praise y'all for it. I'm gonna just keep on going though. We just gonna pray for it or whatever. Lisa Leslie was pretty good back in the day. I would actually say, believe it or not, Lisa Leslie's not as skilled as some of the other ones. I think she's kind of put up there because back in the day she could dunk. So I think but that's a personal thing. I ain't saying that she wasn't great. I'm not saying that she couldn't have beat me in a one-on-one game. For all I know, she couldn't have beat me on the post. But we about the same size. so, so, but yeah, she was able to get up there. She was able to dunk. She was able to yam it. Give her credit. It was a big deal. I remember when she did that in the '90s, right, and got up there and dunked. I can't remember if she did it in the Olympics or not. But yeah, when she got up and she dunked in that game, LA Sparks, all that stuff. I remember I watched it on television. They were just started the WNBA. They were trying to get it on and popping and stuff. I was watching it. She got up, she dunked and stuff like that. That was a big moment, right? But once again, the male and female, we are biologically different, right? And even thank you, brother TJ, same thing, right? We are biologically different. Our sinews are different. Our muscular fibers are different, right? We are created to do different things. We just are. And we should use those things, right? Like here's something that now we want to talk about this stuff. Women have greater pain tolerance than men, right? Women actually have greater pain tolerance than men. You have to, because you're created to have a baby. So women have greater pain tolerance. How you doing, Taqwa? Shalom, right? They have greater pain tolerance than we do because they have babies. Women's legs are naturally stronger. If you take a woman that's never been to a gym and you take a man that's never been to a gym and you put them flat on their back and they do the leg press, right? Right, the incline leg press or whatever, they're on their back and you got the weight that comes on and you put all that. A lot of women will outlift men. Believe it or not. And they'll definitely outlift you as far as percentage or talking about body body weight or height or things like that, compared to how much weight they're lifting. They'll definitely outlift you. They'll definitely outlift you. you know and so there's this wild thing that goes on. So it's like we don't consider that we are, even physically, there are certain things that women have that men don't have, and it should be okay. It should be all right. It should be something that we're not fighting about. You know, it should be okay. But for whatever reason, it's not okay for us. We have this wild conversation. We have this wild struggle. And we have this wild fascination with not being okay with being what we're created to be, right? Or we have this thing about evolution. Evolution is part of the process too, because evolution says that you can make up how things evolve. And somebody says, "Oh, there you go. I knew it was coming. You're not going to be scientific. You need to go back to college. You don't know how science works." First of all, I know there's 6 types of evolution, and I know most people can't even tell me all 6. So when you talk to me about evolution, you can't even tell me what type of evolution you're talking about. You try to pick from here and pick from here and pick from here and pick from here. You don't even know what you're talking about. Now, you're right. Are you talking about evolution where you just laid out a bunch of bones in order? and said that this bone had to go to this bone, which had to go to this bone, because that's not very scientific. Are you telling me about the science that you use to say that this is 500 million years old when you don't even have anything to prove if it's a million years old? And then they say, oh no, well, we've got these things, we've got sediment layers, and the sediment, it just settles and does this and it does that, and so these different sediments and stuff. But the problem with sediment layers is you got trees, right, that go through sediment layers, and you're trying to say that one group of sediment is like a million years, and another sediment is like a million years, and another sediment is a million years, and it's like, well, time out. That sediment's a million years, but the same tree was there. Are you telling me that the tree is a million years old? Or are you telling me it's 3 million years old? Because it's through all that. Some of them have to be 50 million years old, 100 million years old, because that's how far up they go. Or could it be possible that something like, I don't know, a flood came around and shook up a bunch of dirt, just like if you were to take a snow globe and shake it up, and then all of the sediment seemed to go ahead and travel or whatever. Or maybe there was a bunch of water, or maybe there was, I don't know, maybe an area had a flood, right? Or maybe there were a great bunch of people who dug up a lot of stuff, right? But they'll try and get you and I to believe that sediment means da 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 da. Do you know that when they talk about rings on something, they try to tell you that rings on a tree means that the tree is old? That's not really scientific. It's theoretical, right? It's theoretical. Do you know, like, then they talk about ice rings? Have you ever heard about that? There's proof of there's this proof of that. People will be like, oh, where the ice ring show that this is how old this has been and blah blah or whatever. Even though ice can melt and stuff like that, but whatever. We're gonna be like, well, the ice has rings and it tells you how long the ice has been there, whatever, so we can tell how old the ice is. But the guy would be like, well, like when people who work in the field where they have to break up ice would be like, well, rings form simply because of, like, the ice melting, or maybe the ice cracked here or something like that. Like, rings can form for a different thing, but they'll tell you that it's purely scientific. So we don't even know when we're talking about evolution. We just go by what somebody wrote in the book. People don't even know that evolution, the one that most people point to, or almost all of them that people are pointing to nowadays, it's coming from something that Darwin himself started. Even if you don't believe everything Darwin said, it's coming from what Darwin himself started. And read his main book that he's famous for. The name of it is The Origin of Species, The Theory of Evolution, The Struggle of Survival for Favored Races. He made that up to be able to go ahead and talk about how it was okay to have racism, white people on top, black people on the bottom, and everybody else in between. And here's the interesting thing, is that while people bring that up as a starting point for a lot of people in their lives, the problem with that is we don't recognize and realize and talk about the fact that Darwin didn't even go to school to be a scientist. He didn't really know what he was looking at. He was just kind of making observations and came up with a theory, and a lot of people like that theory, that were, of his same mindset. So they said that it was scientific. That Darwin himself actually went to school to be a preacher. So you hate preachers when they speak about things and say that they don't know this and they're too much into creationism, but you're using somebody who went to school to learn about creationism, who to tell you about science. You got to make it make sense. And that same thing that you're using, that same person that you're using, that's what you're using to talk about this new male or female phenomenon. It's the same mindset. He said, Buccello. Okay, hello, how you doing? He said we didn't need science. The ancient people already knew everything through the connection with the Most High. Yeah, like, and by the way, science is just basically now has become just like a way of saying it's what European people believe. But your science is based off of your culture, is based off of your belief system. Science itself is religious. People just don't want to admit it. But remember, the word religion is just basically legion, and repetitive legion. What a legion of people get together and do over and over again is religion. Period. I'm sorry, you said what I say, women are stronger because of pain and men are stronger when it comes to fear. You're saying like being afraid, men don't get afraid and women are stronger because of pain, and men are or hold on. I don't recognize the exact question. I'm sorry, True Queen, if you can kind of clarify it for me. I want to make sure I'm answering exactly what you're saying. Um, yeah, it's about control. That's being part of the community. Jonathan said a lot of our science, not at all, is theoretical or of a personal religious belief. Yeah, like check it out. People say to me, you believe that Adam and Eve, which is, even though this isn't my exact belief, but they hear Bible, so they think I'm a Christian. So they go, you believe that Adam and Eve started everybody, and that's crazy. That doesn't even make sense. And I say to you, well, you believe that your ancestry starts with rocks? To me, that doesn't make sense. We both got faith, right? Same to you, Prince. Have a blessed day, right? Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson, somebody. Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, will say some stuff. Neil deGrasse Tyson says straight up that it was a blessing that Columbus came over. So you got to understand, like, the concept of the culture. He said it's a blessing that Columbus came over because if not, we would have had two separate groups of people. He said, so if Columbus hadn't come over and rape and pillage and kill off babies, by hitting them in the hammer in their heads with hammers and making sure that they did what they did to the little 7, 6-year-old, 8-year-old girls to the point to where they killed them, and doing it to the teenage girls to where they never could have children because they damaged them, and doing it to the women to a point to where they gave them disease, and then they worked them as slaves hard to where even when they had the babies that didn't belong to their own men, that they couldn't feed their babies because they couldn't get enough milk up together and things like that, right? But like Neil deGrasse Tyson will say, "Oh yeah, it's important," but here's the lie. So you got to understand, it's a religion, and religion, any bad religion is bad religion. I don't care about biblical base or if it's based off of somebody who's using beakers, right? Here's the bad religion piece. Neil deGrasse Tyson, how are you going to say that it's great that Columbus did what he did because there weren't two people? When Columbus came over, he wrote in his journal, see, either you're ignorant of it or you're going to lie to my people, right? But well, religion is just a word, yeah. And religion means legion of people that repeat the same thing. So every day I'm drinking water. Recently, I've been drinking water out of this, right, for the most part from this company. But every day I drink water. Guess what that is? That's religious. Religion doesn't always even have to mean spiritual. Sometimes it can mean spiritual, but nevertheless. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, you went through this whole thing of talking about how it's good that Christopher Columbus came over because if not, we would have had two different human species, or we would have never known about each other, et cetera, et cetera. Like airplanes would have never existed. Like what you're saying doesn't necessarily make sense. But okay. Problem with that is though is that when Christopher Columbus came over, he wrote in his journal. His son wrote in his journal as well that Christopher Columbus, in 1482. So at least 10 years before, he was traveling with Africans around Africa, had learned about the current to be able to get him from West Africa all the way over, right? He had gone up to Spain in 1491. He told him he was going to the land of Asheroth, which is actually in Second Esdras, so it's in the Apocrypha. He told him that, we're going to the land of Asheroth. Queen Isabel heard that and she was like, really? Because the land of Asheroth is supposed to be the place where Israelites and the northern tribes left and went to. So they were like, oh, okay. They went to the Pope and asked for permission. He said, as long as you give me some of that gold, y'all fine. And as long as you give me some of those slaves, y'all fine. Y'all can do whatever you want. So they send him over there and he brings an Israelite or a Hebrew interpreter. And a lot of Hebrews were once again scattered over into West Africa, right? What we now call West Africa. And he brought over a Hebrew interpreter. They got over there, they talked to him, and they talked to him about stuff like guanine weapons and how the fact that they already knew who these people were. Now, why does guanine matter? Because West African used guanine for their weapons. They had guanine weapons. Christopher Columbus knew about this because he traveled with Africans. He said, that's really odd that you would have guanine weapons, right? But he said, okay, he took some, as well as when he took slaves and other things back, he took some of these weapons and said, okay, let's go back, right? And they tested it out to see and come to find out that the metallurgy was done to the same level, that the percentage of metals that were put in the guanine weapons and over in the New World were the same percentage of metals that were done over in West Africa. Like, so we're not like, so Neil deGrasse Tyson, when you come to me and you say, oh, like it's a good thing that Christopher Columbus came over and messed these people up, I got to call you out on that and say, like, either you are ignorant or you're a liar, right? And if that means that people from Africa and people over here were going back and forth, we know that in Kemet there are Kemetic, right? There are Kemetic pharaohs, right? And we know even in Kush too. But let's just focus on Kemet. Some people like Kemet. We know in Kemet that there are ancient Kemetic pharaohs, right? That when they were tested for certain items and things that were still in their body at the time of their death, that they had things in them like cocaine. Cocaine doesn't come from Africa. Cocaine comes from the Americas, right? The best cocaine comes from the Americas. And that particular strain, even if you want to say there's some grown in Africa now, we know that it originated over where the indigenous people are, which means that you had to have Kemetic people that traveled all the way over. Or if you want to believe that the earth was all one, somewhat more recently than millions of years ago, and the earth eventually split up. Yeah, pyramids in the Western Hemisphere, older than Giza. Also, too, don't forget some of the oldest pyramids in Illinois and Indiana. Don't forget that the most concentration of pyramids all over the world are concentrated in what used to be Mississippian territory. When I say Mississippian territory, there was a tribe named the Mississippi, right? Not just a state called Mississippi, right? And don't forget that even in Cuba, down at the bottom of the sea, there are pyramids, down at the bottom of the water, down at the bottom of the ocean. You said lack of knowledge and allowed to distract people only a free if you need to hear the wrong thing. Hmm. Oh, you said you're reading about Creole New Orleans race and Americanization. Oh, on page 67. Okay, I haven't read that book yet, but I'll try to see if I remember to check it out. Thanks for being part of Community D1, I believe, in Sarai or Sarah or Sari, maybe Caldwell. Thanks for being with us. You said yes, and crystal ones in the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, well, I don't know about those, but if they're there, that'd be cool. By the way, pyramids had all types of stuff on them too before people took stuff off of them, right? Just like the Sphinx had a nose before somebody shot it off of it. But if we're talking about male or female, right? I'm trying to get you to see that there's culture of this, right? There's a religion of this. There's a religious aspect to this, right? If I can get it back on track real quick, there's a religious aspect to this that people don't want to talk about because you don't want to believe that science is religious. It says verbatim what we just said. Amen. Thank you, Yanato. We appreciate that. That's a great thing to be able to back us up. Yeah, and you can look at what Dr. Ivan von Sertima for even more context and things of that nature. Once again, you can look at Second Esdras, your Apocrypha, to be able to put those things together. These things are out here. It's not just his story that matters; it's our story too, right? And when we're talking about male or female, we have this religious aspect to where we know things happen, but we're supposed to be told that no, those things didn't happen. We know this is what our culture demands, but we're supposed to say no, what somebody else demands of us is more important. Takwa says Tyson, was ignorant. Will never know how undeveloped the world is because of underdeveloped the world is today because of Europeans that came over. True. He said science is trying to make it impossible not to require men to have children. Science is trying to make it possible to not require men. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Took me a minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm trying that best. Oh yeah, you have a pyramid in Haiti. I've never read about it or studied it, but I've heard that before. So I'll be honest with you, like I'm not qualified to talk about that one, but yeah, most definitely. Like I've heard of it. He said science is trying. Oh yeah. Sorry, just read that. Royalty. Thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate it. Uh, but but Yahweh Yashra, right? Thanks for being with us. Or Yahweh Yashra. But yeah, so we're dealing with religion, and people don't want to talk about it. See, people are okay with talking about religion when they can down yours, but when you bring up the fact that hey, you got more faith than I got, they don't want to hear it. You got to have more faith to believe that it's a great thing that Christopher Columbus came over, even with all the bad stuff that happened, even though Europeans had already been over here and Chinese had already been over here and Japanese had already been over here and Africans from all over the place, from Kemet, from Kush, from Mali. Matter of fact, if you know about if you know about Mansa Musa and you study his the kings that came before him, all the kings that came before him would not die upon the throne. They would abdicate the throne. They would basically get hundreds of men together and they would leave and go on long trips. to find land, basically, to go to this place that supposedly they had found. Sometimes they would get there, sometimes they wouldn't, but they would go up a long way away. And so the next king would pop up. So his brother was on the throne before him. Their father was on the throne before them. Both of them had gotten on boats and ships and just left to go somewhere else. And some people would even say, we don't know for sure, but some people would even say Mansa Musa more than likely did the same thing, and eventually just up and left. And his two boys eventually took over, and they actually kind of started messing things up in the kingdom. But come to find out that there's a place in Brazil, right? Which, by the way, there's also places in Brazil where people speak the same language that they do in Africa too. But come to find out, now you can say that's because of slavery and stuff too. So maybe that one's not as efficient or sufficient as far as proof and evidence, correct? However, Mansa Musa and them went over and landed in or well, a lot of Mansa Musa's tribe and royalty and people, they would leave and they started landing in places like Brazil. So there's actually a lot of heavy evidence that when we didn't know where they were going, more than likely they were going to Brazil. There's evidence that people who you call now understand, like the Aztecs and stuff. There's a whole bunch of different people that people just kind of put under one group, right? So like when people say the Aztecs were doing sacrifices and stuff, comprehend that there were a whole bunch of people doing sacrifice. It's like if you say Iroquois or Haudenosaunee people, right? There are a whole bunch of Iroquois or Haudenosaunee tribes that came together as one tied unit, right? And they did so because they had been messed over so much by the Europeans that came over that they decided to make sure that they came together as one united front, one diaspora, right? So same thing when you say Aztec, you got to understand saying Aztec and saying that Aztecs did blood sacrifices and ripped people's hearts out and stuff. That's like saying Africans, speak Kiswahili, right? It's a or Africans speak African, or Alkebulan speak Alkebulan, or Ethiopia speaks Kush, right, or something like it's a lot more to it, right? How you doing, Sister Mary? So but this stuff gets very religious, is what I'm trying to get us to see. Thank you, big brother. Appreciate you, Chris, or Chill Pill. Sorry. So yeah, so you gotta we must recognize that a lot of this stuff is religious, including male and female. Hopefully we're given enough dynamic here where you can recognize that we're not dealing with just, oh, what is scientific. We're dealing with what is somebody's belief system, including on what a male and female is. Right? You said Miss Raim in Mississippi. Okay. Yeah, I hear you on that. Sorry, rebuilding. I just saw the comment. I must have skipped it. Right. So I need you to comprehend it's religious, right? They believe that women are supposed to be mistreated in this culture because women are supposed to be lesser than, right? Which means that women are supposed to be lesser than because they believe they evolved that way, or at least they teach they evolved that way. How you doing, Sir Stephen? Great to have you on, sir. Right? They believe that you evolved that way. That's what they say. That's their religious belief. They say that I'm wrong because I say Yahweh spoke the universe into existence, even though the word universe literally means a spoken sentence, a single spoken sentence. You can't talk about a universe without comprehending it was spoken. That's what the word universe means. Why are we in dialogue about anything else? Or if you believe in a universe, why do you use that term if you believe in evolution? I'm doing well, sir. Thank you very much. I'm going to try and send you a link later on via text. Make sure that you got the link for the convention coming up. You said Scientology backs the fact they're making science became a religion openly now. Well, there you go. Great point, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? But hear what I'm saying. Like, you're dealing with science as a religion too. And people want to act like because somebody wears a lab coat instead of wearing a priestly robe, that they're less religious. And they're doing the same thing with your woman. They say that your woman is supposed to be like, this is why you have men out here to talk about being alpha males. It's because of a religious belief system. They believe that you're an alpha male. What is an alpha male? Do you know that in science, see, this is their science. There was a guy who said that male wolves, right, were the big alpha male wolves were the biggest and the strongest and the fastest and this and that or whatever. and alpha females were the ones that served these men the best. The reality is that alpha females actually, then they started changing it up. Women didn't like it. So what happened to the science? What happened to the religion? Oh no, actually alpha females run the group and all this stuff or whatever. What's the reality though? Wolves, what makes an alpha female and an alpha male is that simply they have sex with each other and they have babies, right? And when they have their litter, these pups, then the pups grow up to have to respect them. And the pups don't get to go ahead and have sex with their own mama, and they don't get to have sex with their own daddy, and they don't get to try and go out and try and bring somebody else in to have sex. If they do, they got to get kicked out and leave, and then they can become their own alpha. They can become an alpha themselves and start their own family. That's what an alpha wolf or an alpha male or an alpha female wolf is based off. That's it, right? But somebody told you for the longest time that was science. So in your mind, you thought that an alpha wolf was the one that was the strongest. You don't have to be the strongest to be the alpha wolf. You thought that you, in your mind, you had to be the strongest female. You ain't got to be the strongest female, or you had to be the female that could have the most babies. You don't have to do that. You're the first. That's what makes you alpha, which would make sense because in the alphabet, alpha is the first number. If you go back to the Greco-Roman way of looking at things, alpha would be the number one. Therefore, if you're the first, you would be alpha. It's religion that's causing us to think about what male, female husbands and wives are. It's religion that says that by your faith, you can speak anything to existence. The Bible says, well, I can do all things, but through Christ, I got to be qualified. And he's got to qualify because authority comes down. Right? So if I'm saying I'm authorized to do something, I'm doing it through him. It's authorization. That's how it works even in your own business. That's how it works in the corporations you work for. That's how it works in whatever you do. Somebody has to authorize it. But here come people saying you can speak whatever you want and it'll come into existence. You don't have to be authorized for anything. So somebody says, "Oh, really? Well, I speak that I'm more powerful. I speak that I can own you. I speak that I can take your land. I speak that I can change the story into his story, my story. I also speak that you're only a woman. I speak that you're only a black man. I speak that you're not smart." Who authorized it though? Whose religion is that? Is it yours? When they teaching us this stuff in school, is that our religion? Is that our religion? You said you remember thinking they want to turn us into plastic with all the chemicals they put in the lotions and stuff. Yeah, and even plastic surgery, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure. Right? Like whose religion is that? When somebody says, Kofi, man, you are reverse racist, you're a racist. Whose religion says that I would be racist? Whose religion says that because I believe that women should be women, that I'm transphobic? What religion says that? Because they'll be the same people that say, see, your religion is terrible and you guys are transphobic and you're misogynist and you hate women and all these other things. Well, here I am defending women, and your religion says when I defend my woman, then now I'm transphobic. Whose religion is that? It's not ours. You got to ask yourself, who is it? See, what is a male or a female? What is a gender? Somebody says, why do you make such a big deal about this hair and this hair that you have growing out of your head and stuff? Why did you make such a big deal about it? In my religion, I make a big deal about it because it's part of who I am. In your religion, you make a big deal about it because you say I'm not supposed to have it. Why does your religion say I shouldn't have it? Why does your religion say it's okay to disrespect my people? But my religion saying that I should uplift my people and respect your people, and you say mine is wrong and yours is right. Tell me who you shall serve. Exactly, it doesn't fit agenda, and yeah, and we have to stand for something. Who tell me this day, who will you serve? Whose agenda, whose religion are you serving? Why is the religion that says that your woman is not a woman anymore, that your woman is allowed to be beat by men in a ring? Somebody got to help me. Your whose religion is saying that they can take your woman and put her in a ring and beat the brakes off of her as a male? Their religion that will have you mad at Umar Johnson because you're tired of him talking too much stuff about the black woman and black this and black that, and you're tired of him, but then let this white dude who's been on TikTok recently talk, making up poetry, talking about how the black woman is so mistreated and things like that. And all of a sudden we're going to lift him up. Whose religion causes you to do that? Now, I'm not saying that a white man should not speak out on behalf of somebody else, just like I, as a black man, should not allow people to just dog every white person, right? But I'm telling you, whose religion? I'm asking the question: whose religion would teach you that? It's all religion. Don't get it twisted. It's all religion. Religion is coming out of culture. Everybody has religion. Everybody has a religion. So that's why you hear all others teach hate and disrespect of race or gender. Amen. Yeah, thank you. You know, like if that's your style, then let that be that style. But be honest about it and say that's what y'all do. Why is it that they have to teach your children? If Black Lives Matter, then why is it that the Black Lives Matter pyramid speaks more about LGBTQ plus than it does about Black lives? How you doing, Denise? They was really hyping them up. I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't even heard the poem. I don't want to hear the poem by the dude. I've seen like bits and pieces of it, and I'm trying my best to not hear it. You know why? Because I don't need a white boy out here pandering. I'm not saying. See, let me be careful because some people are gonna think, oh, he racist. But I don't need a white boy out here pandering and stuff like that, right? As much as I need to see us being respected for the same thing. If he genuinely means it, you genuinely mean it. That's great and everything. Now get in line and follow what somebody who's black is trying to say to make sure that the black woman is in fact taken care of. Right? Help us with what needs to be taken care of. Right? I'm not mad because you white, this and that or whatever. Right? I'm not mad at you because I'm just saying what we need is for more people to be in a position, right, in which we are getting to set a tone for our culture. Right? Our culture should be represented. And so I'm glad that you've heard this stuff. Right now, go somewhere and learn from somebody who's going through it. If I go to Ireland, I'm not coming over to Ireland telling them, I know a lot of Irish history and things of that nature, but I'm not coming over to Ireland telling them about themselves. Teach me about your culture. You know, teach me why I should say free dairy instead of Londonderry. Right? Teach me why you use turnips instead of pumpkins on Halloween. Right? You know, teach me what it is to make sure that you know what an Irish lass is and when it's respectable to say lass, right? Teach me that there's more than just Celtic language and that there's different languages and stuff. Teach me those things. I'm in your culture. I'm in your house, right? That's all I'm saying. So I'm glad that he's learning. Now I want him to make sure he sits down and continues to learn because he ain't got it all together yet. He ain't lived black. I ain't lived white either. You know, I'm just saying. But once again, it's religious, this religion. And the religion you must comprehend the way that the world has been flipped on its axis. And white people, by the social construct, white people, right, have basically suffered in the same manner. Now, some people say in the same manner, or you going too far, Kofi. I don't mean that they got whipped like us, but basically they learned the same rhetoric. They got to be separated from it too. LGBTQ plus people, they got tricked and hoodwinked too. See, empathy must be our goal as well, right? So let's be empathetic. I can only imagine what it is to be um I can only imagine what it is to be a young black girl, have a man mistreat you as a little girl sexually, have your power taken away from you, and then make a decision. Now I'm not saying this is all lesbians or whatever, right? But have your power taken away and you say never again, I will never have that happen to me again. Matter of fact, I'll never allow a man to touch me again. I don't agree with your decision, but I can be empathetic as far as how you got there. Little boy messed with finds that maybe, even though it hurts and stuff like that, but eventually him being, messed over by somebody over and over and over again, his family looking the other way because what happens in his house stays in his house. And well, if nobody will stop it and nobody, I've dealt with young men that have gone through that. I'm no, like, no cap, not capping. Like, I've dealt with young men who have gone through that. Like, I've dealt with young men who have come up to me and told me that, like, I know that what I'm doing is wrong, but I'll try to do. I've dealt with young men who have talked to me, and later on admitted to me, hey, you know what? I was actually sexually attracted to you because I actually am gay, but because of these experiences and stuff. But you're showing me that you can actually have, like, fellowship with a man, and it doesn't have to be sexual, right? I'm telling you, like, I can be empathetic with that. If somebody's having a very human experience and somebody, messed up your human experience, right? I get that. I can honor that, you know, but right. There's a religion that comes with that. Religion, a legion of things that you started doing repetitively. You're with a legion of people that are doing something. It's religion. What is it to be in a religion that says that men can't have wives in order to be leaders, right? You start messing with little girls and little boys. What do you do in a religion when it says that women can't have husbands in order to be nuns? You start messing with little girls and little boys. Cynthia said, as a survivor, you understand the call, or you comprehend the call to find self-love and similarities. You didn't heal or comfort you. Yeah. Like, these are things that happen. Yeah, it is a powerful question, discussion, Queen, because, like, this is real talk. Of course, there are a bunch of people that are confused with male and female. Watch this. We live in a culture that says that we're supposed to talk with children about sex. You say, no, we're not. But you say that a child is supposed to tell you how they identify as far as their gender, where their gender is the style that they apply to their sex, which means that if you comprehend that sex is marriage and marriage is sex, you're asking a young baby to be thinking about marriage and sex when they're not even trained on what it is to be what a male or female is. Do you know in our culture, the first 3 years of a boy's life, you just teach him he's a boy. That's it. Because that's our religion, that's our culture, that's our tradition, that's our service, that's our mandate, right? That's my responsibility. I'm accountable for making sure that my son knows. If he decides to do something different, he ain't gonna do it different because he ain't get it from daddy. Daddy's gonna make sure that you baby boy, you know what it is to be a man, right? You're gonna know what it is to be a boy. You're gonna know what it is to be around mama, but get weaned from mama. You're gonna know what it is to be daddy's apprentice. You're gonna know what it is to get your education. You're gonna know what it is to be labeled to go through to be an adult male. You're gonna know what it is to be trained to be a husband. You're gonna know what it is to be trained to be a father, and you're gonna be given an inheritance and go make us proud as far as our tradition and our cultures demand. It's my responsibility. But you live in a society today that says, oh, no, that's not your responsibility. Send them to school and let the school tell them that they can be whatever gender they choose off of this board. Here we go. Just spin the wheel and watch it go around. And then eventually it'll slow down. Okay, I guess I'm a cis or a non-cis, non-binary, female. I'm sorry, Ms. Mack, you said earlier in England, when the monarch changed religion, everyone had to convert or burn the stake. Yeah. And that's what happens a lot now. I'm glad you said it that way. Right? because that's basically what happens. Oh, you don't believe that all women are women? I believe that all women, as far as women who are actually physically, scientifically, genetically women, right, that they're women. Well, see, I can go ahead and I can put these genes inside me or whatever. No, you're still not a woman. You can't have a baby, can you? Still not a wombed man. Well, I can have a womb implanted here and blah, blah. And it's only a matter of time before we get to science. You still won't be right. You don't have a vagina. Oh, well, you don't need a vagina to be a woman. Excuse me. You see what I'm saying? Like, the culture, the gender, the style. Gender is just the style. The style that we're applying is something that don't make sense. How you doing, Rick? Mike, thanks for being part of the community. You said we're spinning the wheel of misfortune. Yeah, that's what we do, right? You just take them to school, man, and you spin the wheel. There it is, right? They just throw a bunch of information at them. And whatever your child says seems to stick the best for them, that's what they supposedly are. Right? But what governs and see, this is why we have to make sure we separate, we come out of this system. We gotta have some territory that's for us, right? You gotta have something that you can gentrify, something you can make look like what you want it to look like, something that you could that grows what you want to eat, right? Got red clover right over here, right? That's medicine. Hey, Shalom, Uncle Johnson, how you doing? Right? That's red clover over here. That's medicine. Got white mulberry in front. That's medicine. Got black mulberry in the back. That's medicine, right? But you got to have something to put yourself on. You know, got wild lettuce. Have potatoes. I actually took some pictures of it yesterday. I haven't uploaded on Patreon, but took some pictures of stuff out here with my son. Right, potato sprouted or whatever that my wife and mother-in-law started, and potatoes in the ground, right? Like all the different things that we expect to harvest when we come back here later on. We're getting ready to stop in certain places as we go around America again, and travel and stuff like that. Like you setting up stuff in different things to where you can come back, right? But you got to have your own place to participate in, or you got to have your own place to participate in. You got to have your own things to be able to say, this is how we'll make sure that we come out of the land of our captivity. We're still captivated by somebody else. We're captivated by the kidnapper. We are still captivated by the kidnapper. Yep, got dandelion, of course. Yep. I don't know if we have wild onion here. My wife can tell me if I'm wrong about that. I'm forgetting what the other thing. Oh, we got plantain and stuff too. Yeah. But we have I forget what you call the white potatoes, but we have those too, right? So we have and this is all stuff that's simple. We got parsley, we've got, I'm trying to even think about the other stuff. This is just stuff we have here. When we get ready to travel next destination, we got a whole different group of stuff down there. So as we go to different places, we're actually getting different medicine. But you got to have something that's in there. It's religion, what a legion of people are doing repetitively, discipline. And you've been disciplined or in somebody else's religion as concerning your woman and your man. Right? You're dealing with all these things and you're dealing with it. And they're inundating us on social media, right? Just something on social media. That's all they're doing is they're giving us these things. Just saying things that I could identify. Oh, I don't remember. What is it? Okay, so chicory. My wife's out here saying what we have. I said red clover. I didn't say chicory. I said red clover. I talked about white mulberry, black mulberry. I talked about we have lotus. We have lotus. I was saying we have um, um, plantain, wild lettuce, dandelion. Even though we don't have as much dandelion right now. Oh, we have mint. I was saying there was parsley. Even the parsley's not wild, right? No, no, we planted. Yeah, parsley, aloe vera. Even though we don't have as much aloe vera as we had last year. No, I forget about chickweed. Chickweed. So my wife, she's the herbalist, so she's sitting here telling me. She heard me saying what kind of plants do we have. Yeah, but yeah, but long story short, we have English ivy, which grows in a lot of different places. Violet too, but English ivy, like you can actually turn it into soap and stuff like that, and it grows everywhere. But people just cut it down, which you should. You don't necessarily need to grow all over the place, but you can cut it down and then actually turn it into soap. I guess you could do that with anything. You turn dandelion into soap if you wanted, but it wouldn't get the same effect probably. But like as far as English ivy does with cleaning the body, English ivy has saponins. Any plants with a lot of saponin content. Mm. Okay. So anything with saponin content is something you can use. So yeah, there's a lot of different things out there, right? But you have to have an environment to be able to do those things. And a lot of things that we just mentioned are things that people would just tell you is something that you should cut down or get rid of, or they don't even think about it. They just get rid of it. Right. So you have to even be able to identify it. So same thing in our culture, right? With the male or female, there's a lot of stuff that they cut out, right? They just try to cut out and they say, you shouldn't worry about it. Do we know anybody in Colorado? We have people that come near Colorado, but I don't think We did before they took down the last TikTok channel. We did. I'm not sure if we still have connection to Colorado or not. We have somebody close. Like I think we have somebody. Well, that's not even close. They're far. You said what? Oh, okay. So yeah, we don't have anybody really as far as SOC oriented or the community that we have in Colorado. We have family, but I don't even know where. In all honesty. Um, oh, okay, in Denver. Okay, I don't know who, but but yeah, huh? Okay, so but yeah, so it's like yeah, so it's like what was I saying? Oh, God. Oh, yeah. So same way that we like get rid of things in nature because we don't understand natural or natural law, we do the same thing with male and female. So we just cut things out. Oh, okay. Somebody said they're in Boulder, Colorado. Okay, there you go. I don't know. I don't see the person who initially asked the question. Yeah, only place I really know about Colorado, only place I've really been is Denver. So I can't really. We've been outside Denver too. Kind of looked at some of the horses and things like that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I don't really know much about it. Uh, but but long story short, um, Aquaba or Entese. So yeah, so we when we cut out a lot of things in nature, just like we cut out a lot of things in the nature of male and female, right? We cut out the female's need to feel secure. A lot of women want to feel secure, but they've been taught not to feel secure. You know why? You know why? Because we say strong, independent black woman, strong, independent woman. You said, "Have I ever been to Georgia?" Yep, we have land over there, so we go through there quite often on like the outskirts of. I guess you call it Atlanta. You know how Atlanta is and isn't Atlanta at the same time, but I guess you say that we're in the outskirts. I'm probably more familiar when I go there. I probably spend more time in places like I don't really do Atlanta per se, but I probably spend more time in places like in Marietta type area. Um, than anywhere else. We have been to other places there. We do a lot of like national parks and state parks, no matter where we go. So you'll see me in a bunch of places. But but yeah, so we do. So we go whenever we're somewhere. We try to go somewhere we've never been if we can. So we go to a lot of places. But as far as like actually doing business or things like that in Georgia, I'm probably mostly familiar with Marietta and like Atlanta, even though some people call Marietta and Atlanta the same thing, but basically Marietta, Atlanta, and somewhere else. I'm not really great with places all the time in my head, but yeah. Anyways, though, you said they take independence as having no need for a man. Um, to me, it means I have our back. Well, when we say independent, so when we're using, I think one of the things we have to think about is even when we use words, um, like strong and independent, that whole term for black women, because it's specific to black women, by the way. And the reason I say that, um, hey, for real, how you doing? The reason why I say it's specific to black women is because that it's actually something that was made out of the Willie Lynch mindset. Oh, the feminist movement, yeah. So the reason why, like, when you hear independent, the reason why, like, a lot of people don't recognize it is that the strong independent trope, the strong independent variance, the strong independence that has taken us away from what our women are, is because what our women do, what I do to make money is what I do now. Literally, I change lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless, speaking the unspoken, whether that's doing live sessions, one-on-one sessions, marital sessions, pastoring, traveling. I don't really make that much money anymore because we got the stuff that we need. So stuff that my wife has started her own business now, and she's come out of the corporate world where she was making a whole lot more money than what we make now, even collectively, just by herself. But we're in a position to where we're okay, so we don't need certain things. We're not chasing certain things right now. We're actually chasing things as far as fundraising to make sure that we buy land for the community, but we're not necessarily chasing the things that others need. We have multiple vehicles. Only one vehicle is actually a payment being made, and it's because a vehicle that was, something that, we got is kind of like, hey, we're just going to get a vehicle that we just really want. So that's like the only payment we have outside of, gas, water. That's the only bill, electricity. That's the only bill we actually pay. So we don't really worry about it. We've set up a system where we don't need a 9 to 5. We don't need to be enslaved or something. And even if I get a 9 to 5 of some type again, it will be something that I can travel and do whatever I want, because I'm not going to give up what my work is for my job, if you know what I'm saying. So we teach certain tools and things like that. But if you say, how do you make money? I live my assignment. And when you do what you're supposed to do, things that are great, goodness and mercy, right? They shall follow me. I don't chase goodness and mercy. They shall follow me. So I don't need 100,000, 200,000, a million. If we get there, we get there. That's great. We still invested in everything. And if we needed to pull from certain places, there's still places that we can pull from, right? But I'm not sitting every day like making money or doing something just to make money is the last thing on my mind. A lot of people who take classes with us, they can tell you, if they taking classes, I'm not sitting up here being like, where's your money? When you going to pay? Da, da, da. I don't even check. Some people would say that's bad, but we don't have it set up, to check, because that's not part of what we do in our community. That's somebody else's stuff, right? So, in the same stuff, you want to be, as far as your men and your women, getting back into that. Like, what is a male? What is a female? What is a husband? What is a wife? What are we investing in? What have we been cutting off? Have we not been making sure women are secure because we've been telling them to be strong and independent? When the only reason they became strong and independent is because during times of slavery, they set it up that way, right? Matter of fact, let's read this Willie Lynch letter real quick if we can. Right, we have a whole series. It's mostly on Facebook, so at some point we might have to actually revisit it to put it on YouTube as well. I think we only have like one of the sessions on there because we started doing it when we basically got cut off of the first original TikTok, or not the first TikTok page, the second TikTok page they took down. But let's look at this Willie Lynch letter. I'm just going to read a PDF. Matter of fact, if you want to read along with me, if you got Google or you've got another device, you can go to Google, type in Willie Lynch letter PDF. Once you type that in, it'll be the second one down. So not the first option, second option. And you can scroll down. Let's see, where are we going to read? We're going to go down and read. Where do we want to start? So we're going to read, right? So we're talking about what is male, what is female. I think we've established that. Now let's get into what men and women are, marriage are, how people have kind of messed us up. Let's read this. We've read this a few times, but let's read this again. Because we don't want to be, there's no individual without a society. There's no society without an individual. And we definitely don't want to be independent. We definitely don't want to be totally dependent. We want to be interdependent with each other, even as male and female. I'm sorry, my wife said individual independence degrades a society. Is not valued in Asian cultures. Yeah, it's not valued in a lot of different cultures. To be by yourself, only do things for yourself, it's pretty selfish. But in Western society, it's something that's lifted up. Right. But let's see. So you said the first time I read the letters, I saw how brainwashed we were and ultimately gaslighting and things. Yeah. So if you've got it up, I'm going to be starting on page 2 of 4. And I'm just going to read. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start on page 1, where it says, let's make a slave. It's got some words in bold here or there so that you can know what the theme, so to speak, is of each section, right? But I'm going to just read it. This is the Willie Lynch letter written 1712. Some people will even try to argue now, like in the 1980s, some weird arguments started popping up that Willie Lynch letters aren't even real. They were always considered to be real. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, no proof, no evidence. They just say, it's not real. They say there's not enough evidence to prove that it's real. So let me say this: even if you would be somebody who does some research and finds somebody saying this isn't real, I would say that all of these things that are on there are actual context of what was going on. Even if you say Willie Lynch, there wasn't a guy. Even though there's Lynchburg and the fact that he talks about he was invited basically by his family and the gentlemen being people that were owning the slaves and stuff. And he was invited there from the West Indies, and we can find proof of lynches in the West Indies. But nevertheless, like if you're somebody that says that, at least realize that these same tactics were in fact done on a regular basis, even if you don't believe that Willie Lynch in fact is real. Okay, so peep game, peep game. Here we go. It says this. It says it was the interest, and this is kind of rough. And if you want to read more before it, this is not the beginning of this, right? This is kind of sort of getting to the beginning of the middle of it. All right. It says it was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature and the slave nature in particular with a view to practical results. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had to deal not with the earth, wood, and stone, but with men, and by every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong they were every hour perpetuating, and knowing that they themselves would do. Were they the victims of such wrongs? They were constantly looking for the first signs of dreaded retribution. Okay? In other words, if you haven't caught up yet, slaves were always trying to kill slave masters. Okay? Yeah, amen, Sister Shima, is very real even to this day, right? But slaves were trying to kill their slave masters, right? And so they felt like they were victims. They felt like there were such wrongs. Remember, like, don't be a victim, be a victor, right? So these slaves out here, they try to be free, right? Were they victims of the wrongs that they said that they were? The slave owners talking about that, right? Are these people really victims, right? We need to protect ourselves from these people that think that they're such victims that they would make victims out of us. So let's keep going. They were constantly looking for the first signs of dreaded retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes, and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and heart of the slave, right? More than likely, they would have said the N word, slave, but nevertheless, the heart of the slave through his sable face, unusual sobriety, apparent abstractions, sullenness, and indifference. Indeed, any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, first of all, we need a black N-word man. All right, go get ref now. We're going to make a slave. How are we going to make a slave? How are we going to make a slave? Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black N-word man. Who are we looking for first? A black N-word man. We're looking for the male. But if there are no males, and if there are no females, or a male or female can be whatever you want, I mean, that's part of the way you kill off a male too. Right? Sure, the battle is in the mind for sure, right? So we're killing off males. By the way, your Bible, right? Your Bible says this. That they are trying, when you try to take over a place, what do? You kill anything that pisseth against the wall. It's actually in your Bible. It's actually in your Bible. Anybody who stands up and pees, that's the way they say it. Anybody who pisseth against the wall. So anybody who stands up and pees, we after you. And we're going to make sure that we keep you down. We after you. So it says, what do we need first? We need a black N-word man, a pregnant N-word woman, and her baby N-word boy. Formula. This is the perfect formula that they would look for. First of all, we need what? A black N-word man, a pregnant N-word woman, and her baby N-word boy. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse. So the same way that they break animals, horses, is the same way that they break you. That's what they consider you to be. Combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature. You said it before. If we improve 1% every day, the 365% improvement in a year. Excellent way of looking at it. All right. So watch this. Okay. So then it says, what do we do with horses? So it says they're going to break them like a horse. What do we do with horses? Is what we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature. So the same way we do with horses, we're going to do with people. We're going to take them from their nature. That's what he's saying here, right? The same thing we do with horses, male and female horses, which we're going to get into. We do the same thing with male and female. They didn't even consider us humans, male and female N-word slaves. Those are the terms that are used in this letter for us, right? 1712. This is the same people in Virginia. They're in Virginia, same families that will give birth to your George Washingtons and your Thomas Jeffersons and your Madisons and your Monroes. Why is it important that I brought them up? And later on down the road, maybe um, what is it, your Taylors, and there's one guy, I'm forgetting whoever the 9th president is, the 10th president is. I think the 15th and 14th presidents are. They're all Virginia slave owners or or come from families that are, but actually they are all Virginia slave owners. Those ones that I just mentioned. Andrew Jackson, the Tennessee slave owner, so he kind of breaks the mold. John Adams and John Quincy Adams, they didn't come from Virginia, but they worked for Virginia slave owners and then lived in the White House. And in the White House, you had slaves that served you there. So they were and remember, Washington D.C. was just originally a part of Virginia. George Washington made it Washington D.C. and then hired Benjamin Banneker and others to be able to create what it looked like. But they basically put slaves on there. And Washington D.C., you had the White House, that was the manor where the slave owners lived, the president, right? And then you had all the slaves that lived around. 10 founding families, yeah, sure, right? All going through the same thing, going to the same place, the same mindset. So whereas nature provides them, so watch this. This is what happened with male and female. You said, were there any presidents that didn't have slaves? Yeah. Obviously, you got to, once you get to a certain place, if you're talking about via the 13th Amendment, like you're not supposed to technically own a slave, like, have them on your plantation and stuff. Then, basically, once you get past, I think, Ulysses S. Grant, I'm not sure who number 19 is. Teddy Roosevelt is pretty close, right? Isn't Teddy Roosevelt somewhere around 20, something like that? So whoever 19 is, I can't remember who they are off the top of my head. And I can't even but not sure about them, but up to 18 is Andrew Johnson. He's a slave owner from the South. Go back 17 is Ulysses S. Grant. No, hey, wait a minute. Did I have this together? I might be wrong. No, sorry, 18 is Ulysses S. Grant. He's a slave owner, former slave owner. Go back to Johnson, 17, he's a slave owner. Go back to 16, that's Lincoln, he's a slave owner. Go back to 15, I don't know if that's Taylor or not, but that whoever 15 is was a slave owner. 14 was a slave owner. 13 was a slave owner. 12 was a slave owner. I think that was Virginia slave owner. That might have been the person that lost their children and stuff, right before they became president. Then the last one, right when he was president. Number 11, slave owner. Number 10, Virginia slave owner. Number 9 was a Virginia slave owner. Number 8 was Martin Van Buren. He was New York slave owner. Number 7 was Jefferson. He was a Tennessee slave. I'm sorry, not Jefferson, Jackson. He was a Tennessee slave owner. Number 6 was John Quincy Adams. He was, I guess, mostly from New York, but he was in the White House. When you're in the White House, you own slaves. You know, that was one of the perks. Number 5, that was Monroe, Virginia slave owner. Madison, 4, Virginia slave owner. Jefferson, 3, Virginia slave owner. John Adams, the daddy, he was the second president, worked under Virginia slave owner, and was the first president to actually live in the White House. So he had slaves there, number 2. And then number 1, George Washington, Virginia slave owner. Now, if you go before them, because remember, there were presidents before them, you're dealing with slave owners. Right, so you get to a point to where somebody, I guess, like as far as having open slaves or whatever. But if you want to talk about whether they have federal prisons and stuff like that, well, if they did, guess what? Those federal prisons were what? They were slaves. Like once you're arrested, once you go to jail, you were considered to be a slave. I'm sorry, my wife said even Obama is invested in private prisons. Yep, therefore owns slaves. Nike is invested in private prisons. Therefore, he owns slaves. Michael Jordan is invested in private prisons. And people say, no, but that's a lie. It's some other Michael Jordan. Okay, all right, watch this. Are Michael Jordan shoes Nikes? Okay, does Nike have prisoners in America? Not just in China and everybody else talking about there, which is bad too. But in America, does Nike have people in prisons that make their shoes? Check. Okay, those prisoners, according to the 13th Amendment, are allowed to be in chattel slavery. Check. Therefore, Michael Jordan and Nike have people that make their shoes in prisons, that means that Michael Jordan is invested in slavery, no matter how you want to cut it. All right. So we get some people to do that. How you doing, Exploding Flower? And is it West Virginia Gun Girl? How you guys doing? Right. So there's a lot of this stuff on here we don't recognize. We just don't know law. We don't know what slavery is. But I'm gonna get back into this. I'm sorry, you said Michael Jordan invested in private prison. He's a big investor directly. Just so that's no all things. Yeah. So yeah, it's you know. Anyways, you said we have more prisoners than anyone worldwide. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. What is it, like 50% of the world's prisoners, at least, or something like that, are in America? I could be wrong on that one. I think it's like 50% of women in the world are definitely in American prisons, because people be like, why would we put women in prisons? And then number zero, three zeros. That's a lot of zeros. One, two, three, four, five, six. You said 200. I don't think we have. That's 250 million you have up there. Hold on. There's a lot of zeros. I can't tell. Maybe one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Yeah, 250 million. I don't think, because we have only what, 320 something million people in the country. So I don't know if we have 250 million in prison. Might be 1 0 too many, but we definitely have millions for sure. It's a lot of money in it. And right, and at some point, a lot of people who are free will have been in prison. But let's go back to this real quick, because I want to make sure we get to the male and female aspect of this before we take our leave, right? So it says, first of all, we need a black N-word man, a pregnant N-word woman, and her baby N-word boy. Okay, that's what we need first. So he's giving us the parameters. He's giving us a setup. He's giving us environment that is going to happen in, how he can explain this. Okay, so he's setting this up. So second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking the horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature. Okay. Whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their offspring. Okay. So in nature, it would be natural for you to take care of your offspring, like not be worried, am I going to make enough money? Am I going to be able to pay the rent? Like those were things that would be naturally taken care of. We wouldn't worry about those things. But since that would be what would be there naturally, right? The natural capacity to take care of their offspring, we break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. In other words, it should be within your nature to be able to make sure that your babies are taken care of. But you're more scared about not taking care of your babies than you are about being freedom and raising them correctly as male and female. Let's keep on going. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both of the beast together, the N-word and the horse. Right? So in other words, look, some of our people coming up, some of these white folk coming up, social construct, right? Some of these white folk that are coming up. I'm sorry, my wife said, I know plenty of people that say they can't afford children because of student loans, right? So things like that, right? I was going to talk about something, but that's something personal. So for somebody else, I won't bring that up. But yeah, there's a lot of situations where people start thinking about different things, right? So check this out. So basically, for fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking what? Of making sure that black people and horses should be treated the same way. That's what he's saying. He said, we understand that short range planning economics results in periodic economic chaos. So that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth, and depth in the long range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill sharp perceptions. We lay down the following principles for long range comprehensive economic planning. Both horses and N-words are no good to the economy in the wild or their natural state. Both must be broken. Both must be what? Horses and N-words must be what? Male and female horses must be what? Both must be broken and tied together for orderly protection. For orderly future, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. So if we're going to really make this work, he said, for orderly future, for the future to be in order, you must focus on who? The female offspring. The boys you can just kill or just be able to go ahead. They'll run roughshod if they're not put under the proper thing. If they're tender, if they'll just go away anyways. They'll just leave their community in a mess anyway. But the female, they're gonna have to be around. So you focus on the little girl, and even when you focus on the woman, eternal creatures, women are simultaneously little girls. Well, and they're little girls while being simultaneously grown women. So he said, for orderly future, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Both must be crossbred. See how they get you to breed instead of be married, right? They're not trying to get you to honor marriage and sex is one thing, right? So both must be what? Crossbred. That's what it said. To produce a variety in division of labor. You know, like some of us are smart slaves. You know, some of us are athletic slaves. Some of us are slaves that don't mind, being in the house. Some of us are slaves that just don't mind being in the field. Hey, we just work all day. Hard work. Hard work pays off. Why won't you work? What's your excuse? What's your excuse? What's your excuse? And really, none of us should be in a job, but all of us should be in our work. Okay. Right? It was put on purpose, right? Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created of both. We hold the six cardinal principles as truth to be self-evident, based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking. I'm sorry, hold up. I lost my place. Breaking and tying the horse and the N word together, all inclusive of the six principles laid down about. Neither principle alone, here I'm about to say, neither principle alone, horse and a wild um, or nature N word is dangerous, even if, I'm sorry, hold on. Neither principle alone, there we go. I knew I was going to always lose my place here. Neither principle alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or nature or even natural N word is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so, might kill you in your sleep. And this is why they put this together. His next point is, he says, you cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake, and are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to wash them away from from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. If we're in our natural state, you can't get them the job out to you. Why? Hence, both the horse and the N word must be broken. That is, breaking them from one form of mental life to another, keeping the body, taking the mind. So keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, breaking the process is the same for both the horse and the N word, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, there is an art in long range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the N word, right? A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Same type of stuff that causes people to start shooting people up in the store. We're dealing with the same thing. We ain't gone that far. Okay? This is what was going on. And guess what? It's still going on today. In a sense, we just see, because we don't see it as much, because it still exists, but because we don't see it as much physically in front of us, as far as physically seeing, even though we have some people in here who have experiences of seeing people hanging from trees and stuff. But since we don't see it as much physically in front of us, which, by the way, not everybody saw it in front of them either, even at the time of slavery. You just knew it was a possibility. But now we act like it's not even a possibility. But even though we don't see it as much, it doesn't mean that it's not happening still in the mind. Remember, he said we have to create instructions to keep people locked up in the psychological and in the physical. All right, so here we go. You said Wilderland slavery created American culture today. Most have. Wilderland syndrome is just nothing more than somebody, getting better at what was already there. So let's keep on going, right? So now what's the next part? We're talking about male and female and what's been done. We talked about what male and female is and stuff, but I want to show you where we are. Therefore, so because of all that stuff we just read, therefore, whenever you see the word therefore, especially in ancient literature or older literature, whenever you see the word therefore, you got to think wherefore. Where did it come from? Therefore, because of everything we just read. And I'm sorry, you said the mindset of this is so disturbing. I can see how it's important to understand in order to break free. Reading the Willie Lynch letter of 1712. So it says here, therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years. See, he didn't even say there, for those that even like to have those pronouns and stuff. He didn't even say there, did he? Right? Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you. So we don't even have to work that hard. We will focus on the young woman. We don't even have to work that hard. We'll focus on what? We'll focus on the woman. We'll focus on her. We'll focus on what's going on. Right? We'll focus on all those things. We'll make her life miserable. We'll tell her to be strong and independent. All these different things. We're going to focus on her. So guess what? So when she's finished raising the offspring, she's going to raise the offspring just to be ready to work for you. She'll deliver it to you. Why? For her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. When we broke the first generation, we broke all of it. Right? When we broke that first generation, we broke everybody else coming. When we set the generational curse with the first, when we cursed the first generation, we cursed all of them. For example, take the case of the wild stud horse. A female horse is and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with two captured N-word males in their natural state, a pregnant N-word woman with her infant offspring. Take the stud horse, break him for limited containment. It's about to get really, this might be trigger warning here. Matter of fact, it is a trigger warning. Just letting you know, this could get really rough. So if you don't want to hear this, if you want to hear this at a different time, we got this recording on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you want to turn away TikTok, if you're on the podcast, actually the podcast is, I was about to say, probably time for the podcast to go ahead and our time to be up. So, but if you want to stick around for this, just know, it's going to get rough. Trigger warning, just giving it to everybody now, right? This is already kind of rough. It's about to get a whole lot rougher, right? Okay, so here we go. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle. Now, she's not gentle towards the other horses. She's gentle towards who? The master, the owner. Okay? So completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle. Whereas you or anybody can ride her in her comfort. See, I used to think that it said just ride her in comfort. You can be comfortable riding her. No. You will ride her comfortably because she is comfortable being rode. She, in her wild nature, ain't just letting anybody ride her, right? Matter of fact, anybody that would get on top of her would usually be a male horse so that they could reproduce, right? But in this sense, anybody should be able to get on top of her and ride her. Okay. Breed the mare and the stud. Right? Don't allow them to come together naturally. Breed them. Set it up where they are being bred. Breed the mare and the stud until you have what? Desired offspring. Exactly. My wife said all these songs about riding women, stuff like that, right? Right? Ride it, my pony, stuff like that. That's going all the way back to Genuine, right? There's a whole bunch of other ones we can talk about, right? So breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom. So once the mare and the stud come together, you're not having them marry, you're having them breed, right? You're not having them marry, you're having them breed. Exactly, for real. You see what's going on, right? And it says once they finish, so once this says then you can once they finish, then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. This is what they set up. They set it up to where our brothers, our ancestors, they were trained over generations to do that. He said cheating men was amplified by Willie Lynch. Yeah, like that they're only supposed to show up for breeding, not for families. He said, and once you do that, you send them away to go back in the field and they get busy and they get jobs and all this stuff. You'd be like, how do they got jobs? But they don't even give money to their family and anything like that. They go, they get jobs, they do all that stuff, right? But they're not supposed to be connected. They're supposed to be disconnected. How did they go and start another family? Because they just breed. They bred with this person. Up, it's time for them to go up and breed with somebody else. Yeah, it definitely is hard, Jacob, for sure, right? So watch this. So he said you let them go so they can breed again. Or you call them when you need them again. Then it says you train the female horse, right? So she doesn't have the husband isn't there, right? So you train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand. This strong, independent woman ain't really strong and independent. She's strong and independent of the male who in his nature would usually be the one to defend her. But because we have it set up where he's locked up in another place and he goes to do other things and he's just there for breeding and making sure there's more female horses to check in with us and more children who are being checked in to make sure that they raise their children to be females who will do the same thing and males who do the same thing. Right? He said, you train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand and she will in turn train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. If the baby horse, who would be shy at first and be like, oh, I'm not just eating out of this human being's hand. It doesn't make sense. I'm not supposed to eat out of a human's hand. I'm supposed to eat off the ground. But mama eats out of this person's hand. Maybe it's okay. And if I still am a little reserved about it, mama will get on me and she'll neigh or whatever at me, right? She'll make sounds to let me know, oh, I better eat out of your hand. Right? We're taking the man and we're throwing him somewhere else. We made the woman the man, or at least think she's the man, when really she's just eating out of the palm of some other man's hand. And now the infants, the babies are coming up to be able to repeat the same process. All it took was one generation for a generational curse to start. So it says this, when it comes to breaking the uncivilized N-word, and remember, civilization means it's what your culture does. So what's natural to you is not natural to somebody else. So in Africa, there are certain things that we would say are definitely what? Uncivilized. In the kingdom of heaven, we would say there's certain things that definitely are uncivilized, right? But in America, they would look at us and they say, hey, Kofi, your hair. That's why a lot of people come on here. Oh, get a haircut. You're dirty. You're a bum. You're this and that. Why? Because this in their culture is uncivilized. In my culture, what you wearing is uncivilized because we don't do that, right? So here we go. Train the female horse which you eat out of your hand, and she will in turn train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized N-word, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. So we'll treat horses with more respect. We're gonna mirror what we do with horses, but we're gonna turn up the pressure on the actual N-word. Remember, he hasn't said human yet. He said N-word. He hasn't said father. He said male. He hasn't said mother. He said female. Okay? Or if he does say mother or father, he's always going to have an N-word or something like that, or a slave or whatever right next to it to make you realize there's a difference. We got to treat them differently. Okay? Let's keep on going, though. So it says, take the meanest. This is what they did. This is why this is something that was passed down. This is generational trauma that we're dealing with. PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. This is generational trauma we're still dealing with. At some point, we'll probably do evening sessions where we start coming under that PTSS book. A lot of people don't know about Dr. Joy DeGroy, PTSS, one of the greatest books you can read on this subject matter, whether you're white or black, because it shows how everybody's affected by this, right? So, but watch this. So this is what if you're an American, this is what your country is based off of. this dehumanizing agenda, right? It says, this is how you step up the pressure. It says you take the meanest and most restless N-word, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male N-words, the female, and the N-word infant. Tar and feather him, tie each leg to a different horse, face in opposite directions, set him afire, and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining N-words. So if you didn't catch that, he said earlier in this that not only will you train the horses and the N-words the same, he said you will actually tie them together. And here he's showing you how they're tied together to where you can break them apart, break the N-word apart. You keep the horses in place, but you break the N-word male apart. And let's just go through this again. He said, take the meanest and most restless N-word. That means the person that ain't trying to fit into the culture, this white supremacy culture, if we just call it what it is in this context, right? He said, you take that brother who will not fit in, who does not want to be what everybody else says. And what do? Yeah, in some cases, buck breaking was employed too, right? Right. We can go there at some other point. I'm kind of running out of time, so we'll see if we can possibly lift that up. But if you don't know what buck breaking is, look up buck breaking, right? So, but here you have this, and it says that we'll take the meanest and most restless N-word. That means the one, he the biggest, he the strongest, he's the leader, he's the chieftain. He's the one that, hey, make sure that all these other men stay in line, and that make sure that the women feel like they're protected, and make sure that the children have something to look up to. You take that one, you look for him. That's why these people, these brothers that are out here that you guys are talking bad about and all this stuff and saying they too into this and too into that, you better protect them, brothers. These leaders out here, the ladies too, but I'm trying to tell you how they focused on it. They wanted to get to you ladies, so they had to get us out the way. So when you have a brother out here who's out here speaking word and this and that, look, I'm even willing to say, possibly if you want to look at me that way, right? And you want to come to my defense, but any brother that's out here, right? Because there's brothers out here doing greater than I. That's why people like Consciously and stuff, and T Nathan and my brother over there in Hawaii right now. Wow, forgive me, brother, for not remembering your name. But all these different brothers that are popping up, even what's his name? Kemet Street, Black Kemet Street, and all types of stuff or whatever. Like they must be protected, even if I don't agree with everything they say or do. They must be protected at all costs. Thank you. I speak 1906. Thank you. Yeah, right. They must be protected at all costs. Not at some cost, not sometime, at all costs. Even if they saying stuff that's bad in public, I'm going to protect you. When we have our phone conversation, when we text each other, I'm going to then tell you, hey, maybe you should have done this and that. And you have every right to tell me you listen or not. But in public, I will protect you at all costs. Right? You're the person that's out in front. You the person that's out. Yeah, Anthony, right? You the person that's out there. You must be protected at all costs. Because you're doing the work. Right? There's a lot of brothers and sisters out there that got a lot of bad stuff to say about you, but they ain't going out to do the work. At least you out there in the front line. You in the front line. I know how to play my role. I talked about that last night. Why am I great at being number one? Because I'm great at being number two. If you got 2 million followers and I keep getting taken down and I don't even have a chance to even get close to 100,000 yet, right? The closest they'll let me get is 70,000 before they take down the TikTok page each and every time. Well, then guess what? If you got 2 million, then you will be protected by the 70,000 dude. And I'm not even there on Kofi_43, right? We had to start over again on YouTube as well. But you will be protected. The little bit that I have, you will be protected. You said how can we call this white supremacy? That's savagery, right? Well, first of all, I don't know. I guess you would call it savagery. I don't really believe that all white people are savages because I don't believe all white people are wild. I believe that's a wild mentality. When we talk about white supremacy, there's definitely somebody that believes that they're white and they believe that they're supreme. So this idea of white supremacy is something that I don't agree with. Just like I don't agree that there's a real white person, right? There's not really a white person. How right? Because there's no such thing as a white person. However, like we know that there's a social construct and it's very real. So we speak against that social construct that has been spoken so much that it's become more real than the things that actually should be reality to us, right? So I get what you're saying, about that for sure. But that's what I mean when I talk about the supremacy piece, and that's what I'm talking about is this idea that you are more supreme than another human being because of the way that you look, right? So in the words that we speak, yeah, just like, Just like if somebody's telling somebody, hey, you ain't never gonna get it together, this and that or whatever, you shouldn't say those things, right? But when I say don't say you should never get it together, I'm saying never get it together, but I'm saying don't say. I'm speaking against it. So these things that quote unquote come from white supremacy, they're coming from a place of things where we're counteracting it. We're saying that this word of white supremacy is negative and we speak against it. We speak it down, right? So I don't have a problem doing that part. I get though, and I'm glad, because you're like the gatekeeper, being the elder and stuff too, to keep us in position with that for sure. So definitely, thankful for that and saying that. Um, so you have to recognize those things. But let me go back to where it was saying, because we got to get ready to take our leave. So what did you, when again you take the meanest and most restless N word, you go after the one that's the leader. It says you strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male N words. So you look for the one that doesn't fit in the most, and look for the one that ain't even trying to fit in, and you strip him in front of everybody. Is that not what happens to our men? Malcolm X is out there, we're gonna strip you of your life. Martin Luther King Jr. out there, we're gonna strip you of your life, and we're gonna try to find, hey, if you was cheating and blah blah and all these rumors, we're gonna bring all that out too. Now, Elvis can be out here, can be considered to be the greatest, and people are crying and all that stuff over him, and he's messing with little girls. Michael Jackson, he's somebody who is just weird, on drugs. He's a drug addict, for real, right? But he ain't did nothing to them little children. We have proof in the little children that came out, and all of them said that he didn't do anything. But you strip him of everything. You put him out there, make him look like he's naked. Remember, the worst thing you can do to a man is to see him, right? To see his nakedness. Only a man's wife should ever really truly see a man's nakedness. But we're gonna put it out there, right? Yeah, Elvis was married to his teenage cousin, all that stuff, right? Jerry Lee Lewis married to his cousin. Woody Harrelson, or not Woody Harrelson, Woody Allen. Woody Allen goes out there and he marries a woman and then breaks up with her for her daughter, which means that they was probably messing around when her daughter was underage. Still with her to this day, I believe. I think. Right? So these are things that are there, right? So, but it says that what you do with us is that you strip us. If a man even does wrong, not even if a man does anything that wrong, like if a man, says something that white people don't like, you strip him. If he says that we should make sure we have our own nation, up, he's a black nationalist, he's a black reverse racist. Matter of fact, black people can be racist too. Same conversation. You strip them. Up, this man is trying to talk about stuff. You make sure that you go ahead and you bring him down. Up, this dude won't wear a dress. You go ahead and make sure that he doesn't get any more gigs in Hollywood. Oh, you won't bow down to us? Dave Chappelle, by the time you get over to South Africa, we will tell all of your fans and followers and family members that you are a crazy crackhead. And even if you say nobody would believe you, by the time that you landed, it's exactly as what we said. You stripped them naked in front of everybody. You said, thankfully, your grandfather helped the black family with a house to help them with a better life. Yeah, amen. That's great. Right? So you strip them in front of everybody, including the remaining N-word. So even the other brothers, they see this, because whatever happens to you, you on top. Whatever happens to you is going to happen. It's a possibility it can happen to us, and we get scared. So whatever happened to Garvey, whatever happened to Shabazz or X, whatever happened to King, whatever happened uh, to Melvin, sorry, I forget his last name, whatever happened to Huey P. Newton, right? Whatever happened, possibly, we don't know for sure, but whatever might have happened to Amos Wilson, whatever happened to Philadelphia, whatever happened to Tulsa, whatever happened in Wilmington, whatever happened in Rosewood, we see those things. He said, strip them in front of everybody else, right? He said, once you strip them in front of everybody else, what's the next step? He says, and then you do what? You do it in front of the females as well. Bring them out. Bring the women out who are looking up to these men, who's looking up to what's happening. We want them to see what's about to happen to the main male, and we want them to see what's about to happen to all the other males. They would have called us male N-words, right? Here we go from there. Then he says what? And by the way, N-word is a play on words, right? We've forgotten it, but Niger, Negus, Negus, right? Nagas. These used to be words that meant what? Royalty. They used to mean that we were kings. To be a nagas or a negus or negus used to be a king, but now you're just a nigger or a nigga. But you used to be a negus, a negus. You used to be a king. That's what that word used to mean. But now what we've reversed the nature of things. We've changed what the nature of something is. We reverse what the nature is. We changed what the nature of something is. Right? So now we take that and we want to make sure that we bring the women so they can see what's about to happen. And it says, even bring the N-word infants, even the little babies. We want it to be scarred and present on their life no matter how old they are. Amen. Thank you, Sister Deja. No matter how old they are, we want to make sure that we want to make sure that they see what's about to happen, that these males are not what they're supposed to be. Remember, we need these women to be like the female horses. We need to be like the mares. They need to eat out of the palm of our hands because the male stud is about to go down in front of them. You said you remember that fact and still use the word to mean king? Well, some people do. I don't, negus or negus. Nigga is something that comes from nigger, and I'm not a nigger, right? Right? So I'm very careful. If somebody says, "What's up, my negus?" or something, yeah, but I'm definitely not those things. But to each their own on that. I'm not here to argue that down. You said you believe that the vast majority of whites never heard of Willie Lynch or have any clue of violence. Vast majority of blacks the same, for real, or anybody else. You said, do you do know your mother watched segregation being lifted? Oh, okay. And segregation might have been one of the best things that we had at one point, but we'll go into that some other time. I got to finish this up. But I just want you to see what's going on. It says in front of the females, in front of the babies. Then it says what? Tar and feathering. Tar and feathering was something that you did to basically like make somebody look bad. First of all, tar on somebody, hot tar, you're cooking the person. Also, too, you're making them look black. And remember, the first people to even be in blackface were black people. A lot of people don't know that. Before white people started wearing blackface, black people wore blackface to make themselves look doubly stupid. So it was okay for them to be in front of white people, and so that white people would laugh at them even harder than they would just because they were black. Right? That'd be actually something that I'd be down for, to do a counteraction to what's going on from the Willie Lynch letter. We could definitely talk about that for sure. That actually sounds like a great book, right? Need help with from somebody to make that happen, probably, because I don't know how much time I'd have to write it out. I'm still trying to make sure books that I have written come out, real for real. So, but anyways, I like the idea. Long story short, but yeah. So you take them, you tar and feather them. Then what do? You tie each leg to a different horse. Horses are facing opposite directions. So when you tie the legs, remember you've taken his clothes. This N-word male that's in front of everybody else, on top of everybody else, you already undress him where he's naked. That means that when you spread his legs out, what are you doing? When you spread his legs out, you are in fact showing his nakedness. You're in fact showing his testicles. You're showing his phallus. You're showing that there's not one thing. Hear what I'm saying? You're showing that there is not one thing that is sacred to him. You're showing that you have control even over his seed in front of everybody. And this is the chieftain. This is the one who's on top. But he's the one that wouldn't, if he goes down, everybody else goes down, and he won't go down by choice. He's too mentally strong. You could torture him for the rest of his life, and he is too proud to ever bow down. Not without you setting him on his knees or chopping off his legs. So what's the next best thing? You kill him in such a manner that causes fear. So after you spread his legs out, yeah, no one that sees that, right, would ever be the same again. You said, do I believe the majority of American slaves come from Africa? I believe that it's a mix and match from both. There's obviously some of us that are indigenous. There's some of us that came over. There's some of us that are mixed with both. All right. No matter who it is, we all are in the same struggle as far as making sure that we come from outside of that power. So if you want to argue over the numbers and stuff like that, I'm not really worried about that because both happened. I don't believe that one happened and one didn't. I don't believe that one, if it happened only 10% of this and it was more 10% of this, or they killed off everybody first and then they needed more people to back up what they killed off before they were able to come to having these breeding camps work correctly. Whichever direction you want to go, at the end of the day, like, it's still something that, that we should look at, right? And realize we're all in the same thing, whether we're indigenous or were coming over from West Africa or East Africa. Some people came that far, even though it's very few, or even Northwest Africa, or black people that lived in other parts of the world too. Australians were in the trade too, believe it or not, right? And South Americans and North Americans, if we want to use those terms. But nevertheless, right? So it says you do that in front of everybody. You tie each leg to a different horse, facing opposite directions, and then on top of him already being tarred and feathered, it said now you set him on fire, right? It said then you set him on fire in front of everybody. This person, this male N-word who dared fight and buck against the system, right? To fight and to buck against the system, right? And then it says you set them on fire, and then you beat both horses because the horses are tied to a man, and they're not by nature going to kill a man. But we've got to even get the horses outside their nature where they think it's okay to kill this man. You know, you got to train horses for war. Horses are going to be like, why am I, we might tear this man apart. And the fire won't make them go at first. You got to beat the horses. And while you're beating the horses, you say that no matter what we have to beat, right? We'll beat you. We'll beat these horses and everything while we're burning your leadership to the ground, literally. And then he gets pulled apart in front of them, entrails and guts and all types of things spilling upon the ground. They did this in front of the women, the children, and even the other men. But then we don't stop there. You would think that'd be enough. So the next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining N-word males to the point of death in front of the females and the infants as well. Said, don't kill him though. Don't kill those. But put the fear of God in him. That's what he said. He said, don't kill him. He said, beat him. And then do what? Put the fear of God in him. Why? For after that, he can be useful for future breeding. Not marriage, not sex, breeding. Remember what they said earlier. It's just good economics. You remember that white guy, white guy. I mean, everybody on it pretty much white for the most part, but the guy, Pirates of the Caribbean, in the second and third movie, he was basically the villain. He was the real one. You know, he was the one that was like ends up over Davy Jones and ends up like in to tell him what to do. And everybody's really just doing everything in their power to make sure that they have things in order and all that under him, right? And he said it's just good business. That's everything he would say all the time. It's just good business. That's all this is. It's economics. That's what the system is set up as. Your male and females being out of position makes up good economics. That's what causes this country to flourish, is when men and women are no longer men and women, when men and women don't want to be husbands and wives, when husbands and wives don't want to take care of children, when it's no longer a need or a necessity to, when it's easy enough to just kill your child while it's inside of you because it's not a child anymore. When we don't know what this stuff is, guess what we've gotten to a place of? We got into a place of what? Of good economics, good business. I'm sorry, babe. You said something earlier. You said, does Willie Lynch play in the gender roles of today with LGBTQIA, PB, cis, whatever, non-binary, all those different ones? The answer is yes. It does. Once again, if males are not supposed to be males and females are not supposed to be females, if men are not supposed to be husbands and females are not, and men, excuse me, are not, sorry, if men are not supposed to be husbands and women are not supposed to be wives, if children are supposed to reverse roles and stuff anyways, it's only a matter of time before you start going into somebody else's style or gender. For sure. A great question, a great point. So let's finish this up. I told you it's going to be rough, but we're going to finish this up. We're going to finish this up. All right. For the most part, we can read through most of this now without stopping too much. Stop a little bit because we're going to deal with the female now. So all the stuff that's happening from the female, right? You have the N-word male, who the main one was killed off in that ridiculous manner. And then you had the other N-word males that were beaten to the point of death to put the fear of God, whoever's God that is that they serve. They put that fear, that respect, reverence in them, dividing and conquering, all those different things, right? because we didn't even read the part that talks about colorism and being against each other's sex and being against each other's age, and right. So if you have all those things, LGBTQIAPB is just a way of saying like I'm against you because of this. So now you got black people that identify more with LGBTQ plus that identify with black, right? You got a lot of different things to be there. All right, Sir Stephen, same to you. Is it, am I teaching chattel slavery? I'm teaching what masters of chattel slavery did. We could go a lot deeper into it to actually teach chattel slavery. If we wanted to teach chattel slavery, I would just teach the 13th Amendment, and I would just bring you to a prison. Maybe we can do that one day. Probably wouldn't be allowed to, though, because you're not allowed to show what happens inside a prison. But, that would be actual, if I wanted to really show what's going on as far as chattel slavery, that would be really how I would teach chattel slavery, right? Because it's the same thing that's happening, that happens to them in there now. It happened to them back then. So now they actually give them a little more freedom because they allow them to kill each other a lot more in there. But they don't allow them to be able to have sex with women. They allow them to have sex with each other, or allow them to have sex with men. They allow them to have sex with each other. Conjugal visits gone and stuff like that. But basically, we are focusing on the male and the female. But if I wanted to teach chattel slavery, we could actually teach it according to the law, right? We could actually teach it according to the law that everybody goes by today, because it still exists. Nevertheless, though, so now take the female, right? So we're focusing on male and female. What is male and female, and what is it in other cultures, and why is it that we think male and female do certain things? That's what we're focusing on, right? So it says what? It says, take the female and run a series of tests on her. So after all this stuff has happened, how do you make sure that the female N-word is in check? Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Now, a lot of people might think I'm stretching a little far from this, and that's fine. However, the reality is, have you ever thought about the fact that our women, right, they would call N-word females back in this time, but our women, our black women, are the most educated women on the planet. Now, they still get paid like slaves, right? And in comparison, right? Some people might say that's way too far. How you get paid like a slave? You don't understand anybody in debt is a slave, and anybody as slave is in debt. Nevertheless, right? If we're talking about, and I'm sorry, my wife said slavery was huge business. Cities still living off the wealth today, right? Amen. These black women, they are the most educated. Have you not thought about the fact that that's because you're running a series of tests on them? Yes, Minister Sonia, Asian women do get paid a lot more. White women get paid a lot more, et cetera, et cetera. Indian women that come over, I'm talking about not Native American, Indian women, they get paid a lot more too. But have you ever thought about that you are the most educated, and you go through the most nonsense and BS, and you got to go through so many trials and tribulations to get the same thing that, men will get, or even especially white men will get, in this patriarchal type society? Have you ever thought about it's just a series of tests? It says, take the female, once you've set up the system, and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit. She won't submit to a husband. Oh, submission, blah, blah. But she'll submit for that paycheck. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like yes, sir. Like my son would say, yes, sir. She'll submit for that paycheck. But you say, well, what about submitting to the mission that allows your husband and you to be able to be in the presence of the Most High and to do things that are going to cause for your family to grow? Oh, no, I ain't submitting to no man. You run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Your is not black men. Yours is talking about the white patriarchy. We've already beaten the black chieftain in front of her. He don't matter no more, right? We took the faith out of her, even to say, even if he was torn apart, another one can be risen up, because we beat all the other black men that could have became the next chieftain. We beat them to the point of death, and we forced them to a place where we put the fear of God in them. They've forgotten Elohim, they've forgotten Gi and Yame, they've forgotten Ra, or whatever else you want to bring up. They said, nope, they've forgotten Allah, whatever it is, right? They've forgotten Elohim. We put the fear of God in them. Our God, we are God. White man's burden. Manifest destiny. These are real things that happen. Lost cause. Look up these terms. All saying that it is God. Manifest destiny literally says it is God's will that white men and their culture should manifest everywhere in the earth. White man's burden says, oh, it's terrible, but it's our burden that we have to make sure that everybody's civilized like we are. Lost Cause says that the South shall rise again, and it already has because the 13th Amendment was put in place. You've been talking about the South shall rise again. It never went anywhere. As soon as Lincoln got rid of because he was trying to get them greenbacks and have y'all to get out of debt with what's his the Rothschild family. As soon as they got rid of him, they put Andrew Johnson back in place. And Andrew Johnson said, "Oh yeah, you can go ahead and use your banks, and also meanwhile, we'll go ahead and make sure that chattel slavery keeps on running." They got all that out the way, and so they said, "Take the female, take our women, and run a series of tests on them to see if they will submit to white desires willingly." And it says this: don't just stop at testing her. Don't just kind of sort of test her. So it reminds you of the Levi logo. Okay. So it says this: it says, test her in every way because she is the most important factor for great economics, for good economics. Said test her in every way. Why? Because she is who? Who is she? This black N-word female, or our black women, right? It says that she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely, not just submitting, but submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of resistance out of her. Hey, if she shows any bit of resistance and she marches with King and them, make sure that you beat her just as mercifully, sick the dogs on her just as mercilessly, right? If she shows any sign that she would dare march, beat her like she's a man. If she shows any sign that she says that she's not cool with men, all women are women, and saying that trans women can fight against a woman, put her in the ring with a trans woman and have that trans woman beat the brakes off of her, punish her for even thinking that she should have any kind of resistance against us being on top. This thing goes deep. We're still living this every day. We're living this right now. Just because people are telling you, oh, it don't matter and this and that or whatever, or no, you're still living this. We have not gotten out. We have not even mentioned that this is real, and therefore started having conversations. How do we get this out of us? Forget talking about how do we get this out of them. How do we get this out of us? Because our women are still rewarded in the system for submitting completely without resistance to the will of somebody that hates her. Because if she doesn't submit, the bullwhip is pulled out. My wife said the trans person beating the woman in the ring was so disturbing. Yeah. Just like Malcolm when chickens coming home to roost. Yeah, for sure. So peak game. Therefore, so because of what we just talked about, therefore, we shall go deeper into the area. I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait, I skipped something. Beat the last bit of resistance out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil great economics. So have women out here, our black women out here walking around with limps, bad knees, all types of stuff, working jobs that they shouldn't be working. I'm not saying a woman shouldn't work, but ladies, I know that you want to talk about respect this and that or whatever. You shouldn't be lifting 50-pound boxes and stuff like that. You shouldn't be doing that. We should have stuff set up to where you're not having to do that just to make sure your family. You shouldn't be grandmama, 80, 85, 90 years old, still raising babies because this system is so messed up that your babies didn't even have time to be raised by you. And so they don't want to raise their babies and keeping the same thing going. Dis-ease, all those things, right? Dying of heart failure and stuff like that at 50 years old and crying because you made it to 50 and your mama and her mama didn't make it to 50. This stuff still going on today. So they don't want to kill you, but they ain't going to help you. They're going to help you to be able to kill yourself slowly enough that they can make sure that they just keep having you have newborn babies. And isn't it amazing? As much stuff as abortion and all the stuff that's going on, which, by the way, is affecting all cultures, right? Or mainly white and black people, but it's affecting Native people, it's affecting Spanish people now a little bit, and it doesn't really affect Asian people, at least not yet. But isn't it amazing that you as black people, while America, has gotten to 300 and what 30 million people or whatever it is, 340 million, somewhere around there now, that you still are only 13% because you kill off your babies before they're born more than anybody else. You're not supposed to grow, right? So it says this about her: when in complete submission, she will train her offsprings in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female N word. I'm sorry, the female N word. We have reversed the relationship. We have what? Hear what I'm saying? You said we had to toil so grandma take care of my legacy when she should be resting. Yeah, right. Watch this. Watch this. He said we have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized state she would have. So remember, I told you to be civilized means that you fit into your civilization. So if somebody says you're uncivilized, that just means that they don't like the fact that you don't lift up their civilization. So it says, in your nature, woman, in your nature, black woman, in your nature, queen, in your nature, wife, it says that you would have been outside of their civilization, and you would have been, and you would have done something different, which we're about to get into. I'm sorry, my wife says so much cognitive dissonance. How can abortion and childbirth both be celebrated? I mean, that's a question I've never heard you or anybody ask it like that before. That's a whole nother discussion, right? We might have to revisit the whole abortion thing, because I tread it very lightly, even though I think we went pretty deep, but I tread it very lightly last time. All right, brother TJ, same to you, right? So peep game. Understand is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area and subject matter concerning what we have produced in this breaking process of the female N word. We have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized, which means in her natural state of being African, in her natural state of being indigenous, in her natural state of being Yashville, in her natural state of being a woman, in her natural uncivilized state, it doesn't fit into what we want for her. She would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized N-word male. She would have a strong dependency on the men that she just saw get beat up in front of her. Right? It would be interdependent because we would have a dependency on her too. But in her natural position, she would have a strong dependency on that N-word male, on us as brothers. And she would have a limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring, and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. So she would have what? A limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring, and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. In other words, her male offsprings would want to be able to just try and do their own thing. But because she had them look up to her males in her community, her male offspring would actually learn how to make sure that they were protective, and therefore, so that their generation, their women, would be able to be interdependent and have a strong dependency on being protected from their males too. He said, but he reversed that. They reversed that, right? So he said, nature had look at what they say. They're telling you the truth about yourself. They're saying this is your nature. Yeah, she would teach them for safety, right? This is your nature. This is what it says. Peep game. It says nature had provided for this type of balance. Nature had what? So when you're in their civilization, you're not supposed to be in nature, because it says nature had provided for this type of balance. That's what it was supposed to be. He said we reversed nature. Next three words. Wow. Think about that. How powerful is that? How wild is that? He said we reversed nature. We genetically modified you. They told you they bred you. They genetically modified you, all for economics. They got you out here modified in your own thinking. Modified thinking your own language is bad. Modified thinking your own Bible is bad because you're reading it through somebody else's prism. They modified that too. They modified, you live in a genetically modified society. So much so that if you don't make sure that your yard looks like their yard and you let stuff actually naturally grow in your yard, they will come and they will penalize you, won't they? They modified you. They modified your culture. Right? And money's not the root of all evil, but like my wife said, the love of money is the root of all evil. They did it because they love money more than they love your humanity. Thank you, T's2C's. Thank you, everybody, for the love. Thank you for the likes. Right? I told you this was going to be trigger warning. And we ain't finished all the way yet either. I'm trying to get there, but I'm going to be obedient. What we're supposed to do. We're almost finished. We only got like 2 more paragraphs after this. Right? So it says nature had provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized N-word apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. We reversed her nature because we showed her she no longer could be protected by what was natural. Now, it doesn't mean that it couldn't be. It just means that we've set it up to where in her mind it cannot be. It doesn't mean that there's not a possibility that it could be, but in her mind, it cannot be. She saw it happen in front of her. She saw her leaders get shot. She saw her men get hung. She heard them downplay her daddy, and her daddy came home every day from work talking about how that this white man is and blah blah, but he still had to go work for that white man. He didn't have land or anything to come. She saw it so many times that she can't believe there's a possibility she could come out of it. Right? Nature provided this type of balance, but they reversed nature. He said, we reversed nature by burning and pulling a civilized N-word apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. So when a woman's out here talking about I can do it on my own, this and that, part of that thing is because she's afraid. She doesn't see what happened. Some women don't want to be around men because men have died in their presence, or men have been beat up, or maybe she didn't treat a man right, or maybe he was upset and she knows that he was upset for righteous things, but he was so upset he put his hands on her, or this and that, or whatever. Some women run to other women and ask, hey, can you be like a man? But I know you won't really, because you don't really comprehend what a man goes through. I'll never actually have to deal with the man thing because I need to make sure that I still can be fed from somebody else's hand. Even that in of itself is still making sure you fed out of the person's hand, right? Don't go back to being what you're supposed to be. He said that we did this all in her presence by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed. I'm sorry, hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, I said that right. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed. This is what happened. She was left what? Alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed. When your wife feels like you won't protect her, please be faithful to your wives. When you're not faithful to your wife and she feels like you won't protect her honor and protect your oneness, she feels what? Alone, unprotected, and your male image is destroyed. Please don't call your women the B word and stuff like that. Why? Why? Because she feels alone, she feels unprotected, with the male image destroyed. Please stop telling your women that they won't submit and only white women can submit. You know why? Because she feels alone, she feels unprotected, and the male image is destroyed. Go in the scripture, Deuteronomy 28, verse 54. Start there, right? Start talking about tender. The word tender means unprotected, right? Or I'm sorry, it means unprepared. And the unprepared men begin to do really bad things towards their women, towards their own children. And unprepared women, therefore, do really bad things toward their men and towards their women as well. And the children begin to do the same thing. Why? Because they feel alone, they feel unprotected, and the male image has been destroyed. How do you try to get a marriage to work and the male image is destroyed? You're not even a male human. According to their system, they said that you're just a male N-word. So they feel alone, unprotected. The male image is destroyed. The ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state. So in her state before, there was interdependency. The man was dependent on her for certain things, but she was dependent on him for security. But now what? It's caused her to move from her psychological dependent state of a frozen, or I'm sorry, dependent state to a frozen independent state. It's caused her to stop looking at men as a place to where she can feel comfort in, and now she looks at men as, man, these ain't none of these dudes doing nothing. Though none of these dudes want to protect their woman. None of them really care about us. You hear what I'm saying? Misogyny shows their tendencies can't be trusted, right? Yeah, and even some things that aren't even misogynist anymore, they become misogynist, they become toxic, which means that now men are talking about misandry in a way that we never had before because we've reversed the nature, right? But once again, she's gone from a Dependent state as far as being able to depend on security, to now a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. She will raise her sons, right? She will raise her sons to be people who are looking for women to secure them. And she will raise her daughter to become people that are looking towards making sure that they are respected and heard and listen to what I have to say. And this is how I run the house. And I wear the pants in the family. And happy wife, happy life. Instead of happy spouse, happy house, right? We've switched it. Watch this. It says, for fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent. They did this on purpose. For fear of the young male's life, they will train him to be what? Train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Remember, he said earlier that we want to take the mind, but leave the body. We want the body to be able to be used. We just want their mindset, their natural mindset, to be gone. Right? This happens all the time in our society with mothers. Right? Somebody says, "Man, you know what? I'm so look at your boy up there. Look at young." Hold on 1 second. We got somebody making as much noise as possible. For what for? I don't know. I wish they would tell us when these people come back. So anyway. You have somebody up there and they'd be like, look at young so-and-so. Look at young Bobby. Bobby's up there. He's doing so great. He's doing so many great things. And mom would be like, what? First thing is what? If you only knew, child, all that stuff I got to do and all the nights that I got to spend up with little Bobby, and Bobby be up here and he won't sleep and he won't do this or whatever. But it's like, today's the day to honor you and to honor Bobby. We trying to say, look at what Bobby did. He doing great things up here. Right? Bobby doing amazing things. But if you could only see Bobby doing this and Bobby don't listen and Bobby don't do this. And it's like, yo, why are we killing Bobby today? Like, Bobby's like the valedictorian today. What are we doing? If you only knew how many nights I had to be around with little Bobby and doing this and doing that. We even started writing them into speeches now, where little Bobby can't just accept an award and just say, thank you, Mom, for all the stuff that you did. Little Bobby has to start saying, you know, you did this and you did that and you dealt with me and I was bad and I was a bad boy and blah, blah, and all that. Like, we have to write them into speeches now. We can't just say, thank you so much. My mother was so intelligent and she spent so much time with me and she gave me everything I needed. And we have to say in the speeches now, you know what? Well, I was ignorant and I was stupid and I was dumb and I stole from her and I blah blah. And she had to give me whoopings and da, da, da. Like, because we can't just have it to it. But the reason why that is because back in the day in slave times, if the slave master saw little Bobby was smart, little Bobby might get sold. Or if she found out that little Bobby could read, it was illegal. Little Bobby might get whipped. So guess what Mama had to do back then? She had to immediately say, "Oh no, no sir, no sir, little Bobby." You know, if the master came up and said, "Man, little Bobby's out here really reading and growing and doing some great things," that's a sign that to the mom, little Bobby could get sold. She might never see little Bobby again. So Journey Truth talks about that in 1851 in Ain't I a Woman? How she barely knows any of her children and she doesn't even know if any of them are alive. Right? So, in her mind, like, so, like, she's like, I don't want little Bobby to go anywhere. So she said, oh, no, sir. No, sir. Little Bobby, he's stupid. He's dumb. He dumb. He dumb, sir. He's so stupid. He don't really know. Like, he might have got lucky at this, but really, he dumb. Nobody really wants him. She got to talk bad about her own child because she don't want her child to get sold. She's afraid of what would happen to little Bobby if little Bobby just simply was himself. He's shown himself to be on a position where he's a threat to the whole thing of slavery, and therefore he must be sold somewhere or might even be killed because of the fact that he's a threat to the society. So she immediately calls him dumb. And so that, guess what, that happened? That means that one mother did it and her daughter saw it, And so she had a son, and she did it to her son, and her daughter saw that happen, and she did it to her son, and that daughter saw it happen, and she did it to her son. And that's why still to this day, when little Bobbies are out here and it's time for them to get recognition, and some parents are talking about, man, little Bobby got it together, you'll be the first person to make sure that you, for your own little Bobby, you'll be the first person to start talking bad about him. It was taught to us, right? Why does she do this? Why does she make sure that he's trained to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong? Because she has become psychologically independent. Strong, independent black woman, right? She has become strongly, fiercely. She has become psychologically independent. She will train her female offsprings to be psychologically independent as well. So what have you got? Reading this, right? So what have you got? He says. He says, you've got the N-word woman out front, the N-word man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep. Because remember, that's part of the problem too. It's not just the economic piece, but he said we're not sleeping well because we're afraid they're going to revolt. But if men are behind scared and women are scared to do anything other than make sure that they eat out of the hand of the master, and they got to train everybody to do this for over and over again, he says now you can sleep. That's how this whole, when you read the Willie Lynch letter, the whole thing started with, hey, these N-words are trying to kill us in our sleep. These slaves are out here trying to kill us. We got to do something about this. That's how this whole thing started. So once again, what have you got? You got the N-word woman out front and the N-word man behind scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. Think about that. Out of frozen fear, not only does his woman stand guard for, she doesn't stand guard for her man. She doesn't stand guard really in essence for her children, even though she thinks she is, but she has to stand guard what for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to a horse at a tender age. By the time an N-word boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of a good labor force, not a unit of family, a unit of a good labor force. By the time he's 16, he's ready to pump them babies out, to go to work, to not even get recognition at home, to not even be himself, to not even think about what it is to be himself, to put more thought process into how long I've worked at a job than how long I've taught my son. Right? So by the time an N-word boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and is ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of great labor force, continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage N-words by throwing the N-word female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing of the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the N-word male slave. We have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. We've created our own solar system, systemically and systematically. He said, we've done it. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, brother, Minister Select Joseph. I hear you, right? So he says we've created this system that'll turn on its axis forever. But here's the key. Out of all that stuff that we said, hallelujah, right? We should possibly write. I think we started to do one a while ago, but the person was supposed to help me didn't do it. We can possibly look at, hey, how can we write a little booklet or something, or a book to be able to go with this so that we can come out of this, right? How can we have some stuff, some guidelines that help us to be able to come out of this? But peep game, watch this, watch this. You ready? You ready? Now, I'm sorry. So after all this stuff happens, it says it's going to turn on its own axis forever. Here's the deal, though. He said, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves, we show what we mean by example. Take the case of two economic slave units and examine them closely. And as you keep reading, I'm done. But as you keep reading that, what you discover is that what he was talking about is if black men and black women ever started being in marriage and knowing what husbands and wives were again, he said that that's the phenomenon. He said if we knew what male and female was, think about how wicked that is, that we don't even know what male and female is. If we ever just recognized what male and female was again, if we had husbands and wives again, if we had fathers and mothers again, he said everything that we just read about, it's got to go away. Unfortunately, though, you got to recognize that there's the world and not being of it, right? You're in the system, but not of it. Are you going to stay in the system to where you don't get to break out? Or are you going to make sure that there's a system that you create, that not even created, it's already there, but that you give land, that you get land, that you give yourself, that you make sure that there's something that can be given to where things that are universal principles, natural principles, things of that nature, principalities, kingdom origins, right? Things that we had when we were in kingdoms, we were in our own tribes, when we were even in segregation, that we were able to put together because we did not have to worry about somebody else influencing natural law. It's time for us to do it, whether it's through YLP 83 or by any means necessary. The time is up to start to not do this anymore, right? The time is up to not grow your own food anymore. The time is up to not make sure that you're training your own children anymore. The time is up to say that a 9 to 5 gets to take more time away from you than you're training your own children and lifting them up and lifting up the Most High. The time is done, at least as far as I'm concerned. Choose you this day, right? It's up to you, right? Well, thank you. Was that lovely B? Appreciate it. So thank you everybody for being on today. We appreciate you. We honor the King, Queen, each and every one of you. Once again, please, man, please, sir, take time out to be able to look at your emails if we have your stuff listed. If you're looking to come into the convocation that we're doing up in well, I'm not gonna say the physical location as of yet publicly, but long story short, well, I guess we can say it. We'll be up in the D, so we just won't give the address, right, or anything like that. But we look forward to seeing you guys over there. Hopefully, you guys will be able to join us and do what you got to do to be able to come on over. But we thank you. We appreciate you. We're grateful for another opportunity to be with you again. And hopefully, you got something that'll be able to help you to change lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Um, and we ask that you check out my wife once again. She's the you can check her out. She's the Honorable Maya. Goes by the name Bloom and Flourish on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest. That's Bloom and Flourish, not AND, the letter N. Bloom. She's the healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we look forward to seeing more things that she's doing for the community. And thank you guys for helping her and blessing her. Those who have Sovereignty One, I'll be making sure that I send out some text messages and stuff today and some emails and stuff today. We will not have class tonight because this is our week. We're there during this week. We're going to make sure that we do one-on-one. So we'll set up phone calls and everything with everybody to make sure that we set up our DS11s and everything so we can make sure that we know how to get this passport and everything done for our sovereignty, the beginning of things, as far as paperwork wise. So feel free to contact, so you'll get a text or a call or something later on today. And we look forward to doing those one-on-one sessions with you. Probably be like 15 to 30 minutes per person. Some of you, I think, take the class together. So if y'all want to sit down and do it together, but we'll make sure we go through those things together as well. And we'll start setting that up today. So thank you very much. We appreciate you guys so much. I think I have like 1 or 2 meetings planned today. And then to be honest with you, I'm going to be knocked out. I'll be up, I guess, tonight for the live session. So we'll do the live session at 8. And those who are on Patreon, we'll start at 7. So we'll go 7 through 8:30. For those who are on Patreon, those who are just coming join us on the live on TikTok only, we'll be back on at 8. But yeah, I'll be pretty much, besides my couple of meetings and stuff like that, I'm pretty much going to be knocked out because we'll be on the road starting tomorrow, and Wednesdays that's our day off anyways. Now that we're starting training, we're going to look at maybe having our ministerial staff be able to step up in different ways on Wednesdays. So we look forward to possibly having that go on, but it'll probably be on something because I'll have days off, and right now I'm the main person doing social media, so it'll probably be like on our conference call line or something like that. So we look forward to doing that. Y'all pray for us while we're on the road and traveling. And we appreciate you. We honor you. Might even meet up with one or two people, like very briefly on the way down. Might even take a couple days, depending on when we leave, to get down to where we're going to. But just keep us in prayer. We're thankful and grateful to each and every one of you, and we look forward to talking to you soon. See some of you tonight at 7. See some of you tonight at 8, and then besides that, y'all be great. I will say I got to find out which minister is able to do it last minute, but we will more than likely have something tomorrow at 8, and we'll try to, if we have your email, we'll try to send you a Google Calendar invite for the free conference call line, and we'll use it for tomorrow at 8 a.m. For somebody to step up and possibly give us some kind of thing. Yes. Okay. All right. The little children asked me if I'm a YouTuber, and they said they want to come back and follow the support. Amen. So, amen. So we'll have those things going on, and we'll be ready for those things. We appreciate you, that we honor you, and we look forward to you guys being with us again. So thank you all again. We appreciate you. We know it was a lot that came, but we appreciate you. Don't forget, please look at your emails and stuff. Everybody, at least I tried again. So if you don't have the stuff again, we're trying. It's not for lack of trying. Please let us know if you didn't get your there's only be like a few of us now, or people that are new. If you didn't get your information as far as how to come for the convocation, things like that, let us know. If you need to be able to contact us, let us know. If you have questions or comments, concerns, we put all the information on there, including how to get in contact with us, etc. So we hope to see you guys there. Also, too, if you're looking to get in the room, because we only have a few things that are mandatory that you have to say yes or no to on the form. But please, ma'am, please, sir, we do need to know for sure when you're filling out the form. We do need to know for sure. Do you want us to get a room? Because pretty much today or tomorrow, we need to block off. Either pretty much today or tomorrow, we need to block off these rooms. How many rooms we need? So if you guys do need, want to have a room blocked off, or if you guys are even looking at carpooling or doing something like that, to make it easier, if you got to travel by car a further distance or something, whatever it is, please let us know this stuff sooner than later, but especially the rooms. If you want us to get you a room, right now we're only looking at possibly blocking off 10 rooms. We're not responsible. Let me make this very clear again. We're not taking the responsibility of making sure that we're going to pay for the rooms and you guys pay us and all that stuff or whatever, and we're just going to block off a bunch of rooms. You guys are responsible for your rooms, but we feel it would be a great benefit and great help, especially if we're looking at doing, using a van or something like that to get us from one place to another. Okay, Sister Marion, you said you need a room too. Okay, but just when you fill out the form, if you can, and Sister Marion, if you didn't get it, I think you would have gotten it. I'm pretty sure I saw your name on the list. But then again, if you didn't, whatever. But just make sure that we know: do you need a room on there? That's something I don't think it says that it's mandatory, but it'd be very nice to know, because right now all we're doing is going to be like, okay, we're going to block off 10 rooms. Okay. And by the way, some of you guys might want to share rooms too. So you might want to say, oh yeah, block off a room because we're gonna spend it with sister so and so, or a couple sisters gonna get together, a couple brothers gonna get together, right? Think about that as well, right? But we want to make sure that we know in advance. Okay. So if we need to block off a room or something like that, please, ma'am, please, sir, let us know in advance. Also, too, it's a little nice thing for us to be in the same hotel, those of us that want to have that experience, because if we're in there, we'll do there. See, I see. So if we block off enough rooms, the better the group rate. We're not going to do the actual event there, because the actual event there is going to raise the price even more than what it is. And we're trying to make sure we've got things kind of together and connected, and we also want to give kind of a love offering to the people that are going to let us use the building there. And it's kind of a nice little spot. Like, it's going to be one of those spots when you pull up, it's going to be interesting, but when you get inside, like the warmth, the feeling, and all that. And then of course when we go to we've got connection over there through the same people. We're gonna make sure we can take care of baptism and a lot of stuff. So it's gonna be very well done. But yeah, if you but yeah, so basically we're only gonna do like 10 for now, but we can always add on, I guess. But the longer we wait, the harder it is going to be an add-on, if you get what I'm saying. So the payment for the hotel room and everything's going to be on you all. I'm not going to put it on a card. But if we block it, but also here's the deal too, whatever we do, we got to try to make sure we satisfy as much of it as possible, because here's how it works. if let's say we're going to get 10 rooms, okay, just want to make sure we're clear on this. Let's say we get 10 rooms, and we're being very strict on this. Is why. If we get 10 rooms, and let's say only 2 people say they're coming to the room, then they'll be like, well, you know what, we're just gonna, either you guys need to cancel the rooms or you need to pay us a certain amount for these rooms that we blocked off because nobody else can get them. So SOC is not in a position right now where we're gonna pay for those 8 rooms or whatever percentage we got to pay. So we'll just be like, okay, sorry, so if y'all know for sure y'all getting them, it's got to be on you. You got to be diligent because we're gonna have a cutoff date. Right? So the closer we get to October, I'm gonna make sure we tell you what the cutoff date is. But basically, we're gonna have a cutoff date. Usually, it's like a month. Sometimes, if you're doing an event, they might give you even sooner. But I'd assume, usually around a month, maybe 3 weeks prior, or something like that. Maybe sometimes I've even seen 2 weeks prior. They'll be like, okay, you got to pay or else. So if 10 people say they're coming, and we get these rates right to be lower, and then all of a sudden only 2 people are coming, I'm canceling it, which means that those prices that those people said they were going to pay or whatever, they got to go up. So, out of fairness, if you say, yes, we need a room, right, we'll make sure that we get you guys, we're going to make sure we send you what the rate is for the room and all that. Matter of fact, what I'm actually going to do, I was thinking about this last night, which is just easier. I'm going to send you the information where you can talk to the people on the phone for the hotel. So, once we have people and we say, yes, okay, we're going to set up these things and we get it officially done, you'll be able to call them and be able to say, hey, we're coming with Servants of Christ. There's supposed to be 10 rooms, yada, yada, yada. And they'll tell you on the phone, oh, yeah, sure. This is blah, blah. This is what the cost is. They got one, they got a room with a king size bed and this for the handicap person, blah, blah. They got this for, they got 2 queens thing going on here. Like they got, this is the rooms that they got. What would you like? So, that's one of those things. Business is business. A lot of stuff we do is donation oriented and we let you do whatever, but this is business. Like we got to make sure that as far as the cost for the event and the hotel room, the cost for the event, remember we gave you a couple of extra weeks because we weren't on point. Me, right? I wasn't on point. So, hey, you got till August 15th. By August 15th, we need the money for the event. As far as the hotel, whatever it is between you and the hotel, that's on you. All I know is if they start calling me, talking about, hey, you got 10 rooms together, or you got 20 rooms together, or you got 50 rooms together. Who knows how many people coming? But you got all these rooms together and ain't nobody paid yet. What you gonna do? I'm gonna cancel. That's just telling you straight up. So I just want that to be clear. It's not because we're mad at anybody. It's not because we don't have love in anybody. It would be wrong as me. It would be wrong of me to put SOC in debt and to have to take, rob Peter to pay Paul, right? It would be wrong of me, especially because also off of this event, we'll probably be able to utilize this event to make sure that we finally 100% finish, you know, having enough money for land, right? Because even if we don't make up everything by October 1st, this event should be able to help us a lot to make sure that, hey, we got enough, even if we just going to put 80, 90% down. If we can't put 100% down, this event also should be able to help with that, right? So it would be irresponsible of me to have us that close to what we said we were going to do, and then all of a sudden allow the money to just dissipate and go away. Amen. So I just want to put that out there. That's the thought process behind it. All right. That's why we're doing it that way. No shade, no anything. We just want to be upfront with everybody up front. All right. Amen. Thank you, Minister Sonia, who's been somebody who's been on me recently. My wife has been on me a whole long time or whatever, but I think I'm finally getting mature enough to handle it. Right. Sister Sharnisha would probably be proud too, of like, hey, business is business. We love y'all, but we just got to do that, right? So you said suggest those needing a room, submit deposit to hold. That way you won't hold too many. Yeah, well, that's something we're thinking about. But once again, you know what? Okay, I see what you say, Minister Tamara. I was off. I wasn't thinking what you were thinking. I see what you're saying. That's something we can thought about. I can talk about talk about it with my wife. Next time we have our project management meeting, we can bring it up too, as well. Because we got a little bit of time beforehand, so we can put this stuff together. Also, too, maybe we can do something with project management and with the Hebrew Holy Days Committee to see how those things run together, possibly too, and just kind of do a catch-all just for those two groups or whatever. Working on it. But yeah, so we'll do those things. But long story short, the prices are out there. August 15th. is when we need the prices for the event. We need the prices for the event August 15th. All right. And we'll make sure that we get you the information. Right now, we're only getting, well, matter of fact, you know what? This is the great thing about making sure that I'm actually being obedient to what project the system the project management told us to do. I can actually look this up right now and kind of look and tell you at least what we've gotten back from everybody, what I'll be looking for. I can just look at what you guys said, what you sent to us. That's a blessing, right? I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to do. Well, once again, so the general fee, if you want to call it that, that's actually on the okay, my bad. That's actually on the form. It actually says what's on the form, the prices. So if you look on the form, it's got all that information on there. If you're bringing one person, we lessen the price. For if you're bringing two people, then the second person is in, cheaper. If you bring a third person, that goes lower. If you need to talk about group rates and things like that, we also say you can contact us and connect with us as well. So some of those things I don't want to put out in public per se for legal reasons, and I'll just leave it at that. But you can read the form. But I can tell you, I mean, we haven't had that many people who have responded, no matter how long some people have had this form. But yeah, so right now, as far as rooms, it would only be smart because of who said they're coming. It would only be smart for us to say, and people who told us specifically they need hotel rooms. It would only be smart for us to say, like, hey, we'll go ahead and get 10 rooms. That's the most that we probably should get right now, because that's all anybody said really is around 10. So if we get people that fill out more, we don't have that. There's a lot of people we're missing forms from. So the more forms we have filled out, things like that, we'll be able to make sure we get those rooms and everything together. And if we need to go higher, we'll go higher. But right now, it would behoove us to stay at 10, because we're not even at the number. Well, I'm sorry, we have enough people total. I'm looking at the people who said they're coming, but those responses are not just one person per response. So around 10 is the most that we should look at right now. Well, I guess adding in somebody who just said they wanted it on there, I know they're bringing 2 other people with them, so that's 3 total. So that might up it a little bit, but we got to be careful. Okay. So yeah, I know it's 9 hours away by vehicle. That's why I was saying, I don't know if people want to ride together or do whatever, depending on how we're doing this or whatever. I might have depending on how we do it. See, it depends. We got to know. That's why I'm saying, if you want to do stuff or if you need stuff, because the way we could do it, I just need to know. Like, even if you don't know, that's why, even if you need putting the maybe, or if you say putting the maybe, like, and you want to call and talk about it, let us know, right? Because from where I'll probably be coming from, I'm probably going to be coming from, at least 10 hours away myself, and I'm probably going to have to take a couple days, split it up, because I'm probably going to have family in our vehicle, but I'm probably going to rent whatever vehicle I have before I get over to the D. Why am I going to do that? I'm going to do that because if necessary, we can even pick people up on the way, right? Now we pick, right? So we could still help. Or if you're near somebody, like some of y'all might be 2-3 hours away from each other and might say, hey, I'm willing to help out, or I'm willing to do this. Or if your child needs, if you got somebody that has a handicap or whatever, like I have a vehicle that's big enough for, hey, maybe I'm one person, but I can get with y'all. Like, if you guys are comfortable with that. If you're not, but there's different ways we can do it, right? So what I'm saying is, like, even if it's a maybe, fill it out. Even if it's a maybe, fill it out and let us know, because the answer doesn't have to be no, right? There's ways that we can do this. We're trying to be community, family atmosphere, and some of the charges that we're doing is because we know we're going to have a van and different things like that as well, right? I'll probably personally end up taking a lot of that cost myself, but we'll be able to make sure, bare minimum, hey, we can afford gas. We can make sure that people can get to and from. If we need to pick up somebody on the way, those are things that we can look at, right? Those are things that we can look into and make sure happen if necessary, right? But we need to know, right? So we just need to know in advance, right? If somebody wants to come through, if people want to come together, there's people in H-Town You get enough people in H-Town. Also, too, let's say you get somebody, y'all carpool or whatever, or even if you don't carpool, let's say somebody takes a van ride up with us. While they're taking the van ride up with us, somebody says, hey, we'll take care of the cost. So you got a bunch of people, the rooms in the hotel that we're about to get, the same one we were just in. You got 2 queen beds and you got a couch that pulls out. Bare minimum, that's three, that's three people, right? That can be in there. Or if you're bringing a family, if you're bringing your girlfriends or whatever. So I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be, it can't happen, right? Even if somebody need, like, we'll talk about this more and more, but I'm just saying, don't throw it off. There's always, if there's a will, there's a way. We just need to know in advance so that we can start helping, right? We can't help, or we can't try to figure it out, or we can't say, hey, this person connected here. We can't say, hey, you just want us to come scoop you. We can't say, hey, you want us to just make sure, because we're going to get a van more than likely that, if we need to, before we leave, we can take seats out, or we can make sure that there's a handicap spot in the back or whatever. But we don't know about these things if we don't know, from the jump, right? So we just need to know. Long story short, we just need to know, okay? And we'll do the best that we can to help everybody, right? So those who are on phone calls, stuff like that, maybe you guys can reach out and ask people what they want to do, but fill out the form. The form, ask a bunch of questions on there, and it even has information. Email us, call us, talk to us if you know, right? So just let us know. Get in contact with us. If you don't have contact information with us, if you're on TikTok right now, just go to where it says website on our TikTok page. Click on that. That's our link tree, and find a way to get in contact with us. If you're on YouTube, or whenever you're listening to the podcast, you can always look in the description box with the video or with the episode. And on YouTube, on all of those, we even have a form you can fill out that's just for general information. So at least we can have the information, and we can make sure that we add you to the list of people to send stuff to. So, just get in contact with us. Once again, all you got to do is go on. All you got to do is go to our TikTok page, click where it says website, click on our link tree right there, and go to the website or something like that, and get our information. If you get the number, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's easiest to text us. We usually are able to get back to text, because the way the system works, it's usually easier to see the text and respond to the text than to call. But if you want to call, leave a message, feel free to call and leave a message. If you're looking to email us, and we will get right back to you. I promise you, right? We'll make sure we got this thing set up. But if you want to go to our YouTube channel is on there. Same thing, I put on a lot of our videos, hashtag find Kofi. Our YouTube channel is on there. Go to the YouTube channel, look in there, at least fill out the form that has that. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to do, so I can make sure I start doing it on all the stuff. I'm going to make sure that I put the link for the event on YouTube, on our YouTube pages. So from now on, starting today's thing, because I don't have it on the other ones, but starting today, every every single YouTube video up through October the 16th, I'll even go that far, right? Every single one will have 2 links at the bottom. First link, and I'm going to even label them to make sure. First link is for the questionnaire, right? If you're thinking of being a part of what we do. The second link is going to be for Holy Convocation, October 14th through the 16th. I'm putting it in there right now. Just edited it right now, and I'll make sure that that's in there for every single video that we do from now all the way to October, right? Obviously, we need the stuff as far as payment for the event August 15th. But even if you're somebody coming last minute and you're going to do the hotel and everything on your own or whatever, we'll leave the stuff up even all the way till October. Just know that if you're coming to us anytime after August 15th and asking us to save you a spot or saying you're coming or whatever, we're making sure that we develop a packet and all that just for you, or a book or whatever we're going to do that's just for you. Recognize that means that after that date, you're going to have to pay before we add you to the spot. All right. Just want that to be said. It's out loud. Hopefully everybody got it. All right. No digging at anybody. Just what we've been doing. And a lot, just to remind people, we've been talking about this basically since October last year. We've been talking about this as far as trying to get this done since even more so since December, we've made it a point to where we actually had a spot in mind that was in South Carolina, but we couldn't make that happen because of pricing or whatever where we wanted it to happen. Um, but basically we've been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about, hey, that we wanted you guys to be prepared to save up to $300. It is nowhere close to $300. We said the least it would be with 150, and heck, depending on how many people you bring, some of the people will be less than 150 per person. Okay. So we just want to be there. Oh, no problem, Sister Betty. I was thinking about you, but thanks for being on. Uh, and I did talk with Ken and everything. We had a pretty decent start to a conversation. So just to let you know. But thank you, everybody. We appreciate you again. And thank you so much. As always, has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We will be back later this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. Ministerial staff, I'm going to it won't be eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but I'm going to be praying about it. And I'll be asking one of you guys later, are you willing, doesn't matter how long or short you want it to be, are you willing to do a little bit of study tomorrow? We'll get in the habit of on Wednesdays still being able to do something, but we'll just do it via free conference call for now. And, and hopefully we can get you guys to start growing maybe some of your virtual stuff where you guys can do stuff on your own too, where we can start promoting you and sending people to your lives. But, until we get the rest of the stuff set up technology wise and get this payments and everything together. But we'll look at possibly doing something for free conference calls. So hopefully y'all can be prepared. Somebody can be prepared. I don't know who it'll be, um, but somebody can be prepared to be ready at 8 a.m. Eastern, New York time tomorrow via free conference call so we can still get this in, even with me taking the day off, because I would not participate. I'm taking my day off. I'm gonna be sleeping for the rest of the day, except for a couple quick calls. And as a reminder, again, those who have Sovereignty One, no Sovereignty One this week. I'll be setting up starting today, one-on-one sessions with you to get your DS11 forms done. And I'm off tomorrow. I'll be back on. If you're on Patreon, 7 p.m. Eastern New York time. If you we'll start if you're on live with us, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. And if you are and Thursday Rising Prayer, right? Free conference call line. That'll be Thursday by Minister Anais over that 7 a.m. Eastern New York time. So be prepared for that. And then I'll be back personally 8 a.m. Eastern New York time on Thursday. All right. A lot of stuff out there. Hopefully you guys got it. Yeah, DS11 forms for those that are taking Sovereignty One class. We'll be going over there with those together. So we'll get in touch with everybody starting today, and we'll definitely make sure everybody's aware that we're going to be doing your DS11 form, so don't worry about going to class. So we'll make sure we get that info out early. Thank you all. We went long. Appreciate you. See you guys on Patreon at 7 Eastern. See you guys on TikTok 8 Eastern. And pray for us as we're traveling on the highways and byways. And please, ma'am, please, sir, fill out your forms. I'll try to remember as much as I can, but it being where I can see it versus it being in my memory, that's a lot of different things. So anyways, appreciate y'all. And remember, as always, y'all said that you're loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be other. Shalom. Peace.